All right. What is up, you heathens and demons? Tonight we're going to have a very good conversation about when or if the God belief and religion become dangerous. We got a really good panel. And I do what I do. Holy shit. All right. I'm going to flip it over to my moderator, Ashley. And moderator is God. Stupid YouTube and mute buttons. Moderator is God. So live chat, please be respectful. If the evening's moderator bans you from the channel, you will be banned. So understand that. But we are going to flip it over to Ashley, and she's going to get us going. What's up, Ashley?
Hey, TRA. So I'm actually pretty excited. We talked about this after the last stream where I was a panelist, but I think it's a really, really intriguing topic, and I've been seeing some interesting content being generated from at least a couple of the creators that are here on this topic. So I'm going to start off by having everybody introduce themselves. So we'll start off, I'll go from left to right. We'll start off with John Peterson, if you want to give yourself a quick introduction.
Is John the most left person on the panel? What?
On my screen, he is.
I think
get the joke.
I think that the most left person on the panel just went to take care of something. Introduce someone.
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of more known in LeftTube for my collective use stuff. So
Cirrus is pretty much to the left as well, as am I. So this is I don't know.
Did you guys see my joke on Twitter? Two polytheists, three atheists, a horse, and a wizard walk into a bar. A skeptic wizard walk into a bar. But anyway, my name.
So here's the question: which one is the skeptic wizard? Is it me or Cirrus? I'm not quite sure.
It's Cirrus. You're one of the two polytheists. You're one of the two polytheists. Yes, you and Ashley, I believe, are polytheists. I don't know. I didn't know what Cirrus.
Is that a justified belief that we're polytheists?
Well, Ocean is a heathen and Ashley is a reconstructivist. There we go. Fuck.
I'm a Hellenist.
We're both recons. So
yeah, we're both recons. All right. Order, guys. Introduce yourself, John.
Well, as a Hellenist, though, does that mean you worship Helena Bonham Carter? No? All right. Anyway,
we're gonna have to kick the horse.
All right. My name is John Peterson. I do streams on the Great Debate Community on Saturday nights. We do topic-based panel discussions. And I just started a new channel this past Sunday called The Amateur Conversationalist. I'll link it in the chat at some point. And my first episode was Sunday with Sock Account. And check me out.
All right. So next we've got Divine Disbelief.
Well, one half of Divine Disbelief. The better half is not here this evening. I am Nathaniel Walters. Divine Disbelief. We are a secular, bi-weekly secular radio show on. It's more of a podcast more than anything else on YouTube, but also Democratic candidate for Texas House District 93. So, hey, everybody.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Nathaniel, but is anybody else here who has spoken with Nathaniel before hearing him a couple octaves lower than normal?
Yeah, myself.
Yeah, I'm thinking, Nathaniel, you may need to unplug your mic and plug it back in. That's what happens with my mic. It'll literally just randomly make me go a few octaves low.
But what if he just wants to be glorious?
I could do that.
I mean, we're not saying that we don't want the deep voice of Nathaniel.
All right, sir. Since you were talking, you might as well go next.
No, I refuse. Anyway, so my name is Cirrus. I have a channel named Cirrus the Skeptic. If you're watching on my channel, then please go check out Raging Atheist channel. If you're watching on TRA, the converse, if possible. I do mainly response videos. I also do other types of content that is not that. That would be the Dangerous Woo series and the LHAC series, respectively. I also have a show called Hammered Out that I host with Ocean Keltoy, and we've actually had a few of the people from this panel on that show. We've had Nathaniel Walters of Divine Disbelief on there. We've had Atheist Rationale and The Raging Atheist on there as well. And they've actually all been on other shows on my channel as well. I feel like I can't actually get away from you guys no matter how hard I try. That is not to say that I've been trying. But
you had Nicholas from the last panel on your show too, because we were talking about anti-theism and he was there for that one.
Fair enough.
All right, Ocean, you're next.
Hi, I'm Ocean. I am usually the resident polytheist. However, I'm one of two in this stream, which is great. And let's see. So I've got a channel. It's entitled Ocean Keltoy, in which I'm talking about different concepts in polytheism currently, and that will slowly expand into other concepts and specific traditions as well. So yeah, and I have I co-host Hammered Out with Cirrus over here as well, as he just mentioned, and yeah, things and stuff. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and subscribe stuff.
All right, Atheist Rationale. You are muted, buddy.
Yeah.
It's
Nope,
on your end. It's you're not muted through Hangout.
This happens with AR sometimes. Like, check your connection again, AR. I think this
Well,
happened last time.
While he's checking his connection, how does my voice sound? Better? Worse?
You sound deep.
Oh, yeah, you sound good.
You sound
You
like
sound-
Barry White.
No,
Yeah,
I've talked to him in person. It sounds like that's about the voice I heard in person. It's deep but glorious.
I think I
Atheist
have a
Rationale,
theory.
you might want to try like messing with your mic or something. Something's going on with it again.
yeah, you're still muted.
I have a theory on Nathaniel. I think he might have a different voice when his wife's around.
It gets
I
lighter.
think
Can you hear me?
Nathaniel is just like,
Am I
Go for it.
coming in?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're the-
now
There
you're
you
coming
are.
in. There we go.
All right, cool. Sorry about that, guys. My USB drive is just like shot every once in a while. It'll cancel out. And also, I'm using Streamlabs to get the. Well, not Streamlabs, OBS to get this whole green screen thing working.
seem-
And
yeah, I
every
was about
once
to
in a
say,
while,
you-
it'll just cut the mic out. So
if you're using your technology in space, sometimes it'll screw up. So yeah, you seem to be broadcasting from a
That
satellite.
radiation.
if what the craft is in here, she usually brings in tech gremlins, so it could be that too.
Oh, I do too.
So it's Ocean's fault. All right, we got that
Yes.
squared
If
away.
there's technical issues, blame me.
No, just blame the pagans. We've got Ashley and Ocean.
No, we got two pagans in here. Shit, nothing's gonna work.
All right.
Pagans and your tech gremlins. Oh my god. All right. So introductions. I guess I might as well do that. And I'm the Atheist Rationale. I help out other channels a lot, and I also do live streams on my channel tackling religious fundamentalism, calling out hate. Gonna be moving into some lefty stuff pretty soon. And tomorrow I'm gonna have a discussion with Progressive Liberal on the history and of Antifa. So that's gonna be pretty fun. Go check it out.
You've done a lot of work on the
So-
NIFP situation too, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Got to say, if you don't mention the fact, since he's not going to mention the NIFB stuff, I will.
Yeah, I
will too.
Atheist Rationale has been the primary archivist, as it were, for all of the information that me, Ocean, Mr. Atheist, and others have used in order to do our campaign against the NIFB. He is the one who's actually been doing the brunt of the grunt work that allows us to do the actual presentation work. So if he's not going to take credit for that in public, then I'm going
Oh,
to fucking make
shit.
sure that
Well,
he does
that's
get
got-
credit for that.
He's
That's
been
kind of
growing
what I
all the
meant by
pumpkins.
like helping out other channels.
Hey,
Cool.
AR, you just
AR,
went up,
okay,
you just
so-
AR, you just went up like 3 notches in my book, man.
AR is
Wow.
pretty much the main farmer of the pumpkin patch that from the rest of us have
Yeah.
been using content from, and it's quite wonderful. It's his efforts on that definitely deserve all the accolades in the world. So I want to just definitely echo Cirrus 100% in that compliment.
Yeah,
I
me
really
too,
appreciate
me
you guys.
too.
Thank you.
100%. When I delved headfirst into a cupcake, it was AR that let me know what I was getting into and who I was dealing with, and I had never even heard of the NIFB. So yes, AR has been doing this for a long time, and much of the footage that you guys have seen on my channel when it comes to NIFB has come from Atheist Rationale.
Yeah, that's some hard work. You really need to make sure that you actually like are willing to take credit for it, because I know we had a conversation about that last
Yeah.
night, but like let yourself stand in the spotlight for a second, because this is a huge movement and you
Well,
need credit.
It's hard to take credit
was
for it
in-
because I feel like archiving isn't really all that special.
But
That
here's
is,
the
it is
thing,
literally the.
Here's the thing: is that if you didn't put together that footage, the rest of us putting forth the criticism wouldn't be able to show our receipts. So that is an extremely powerful thing to be able to show your receipts.
Oh
And
yeah,
that
just
you've
like
been
Dragnot
you've been
says,
giving
always bring the receipts.
yeah
You're,
you
you're like a historian, AR. I mean, here's the thing. He was in the live chat earlier, being all humble and shit. You got to blow your own horn sometimes, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Like seriously, and when you don't, all of us are going to put you in check and make sure that it's understood that no, you did fucking help with this. The one time that you did not take credit for your work for a little bit was because you were worried about repercussion, and then you immediately got credit right afterwards. Don't go back to that whole not taking credit for the shit you do thing. Don't. Okay?
All right, I won't.
Now
I'll start
that we
promoting my
now that we
guy-
finished
promoting myself as the
admonishing-
lead NIFB archivist.
Now that
Start
we
doing
finished
that.
admonishing AR for his achievements.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, guys. Order in the court. TRA, it's on you.
All right, yep, I'm the Raging Atheist, your boy. I have a lot of big stuff coming up. Tomorrow I am putting out a pretty big video. It's already ready and stuff, so I'm going to try to get on Discord before I go to work. We'll see if that can happen. I have a really big meeting coming up with that Christian vlogger. It's going to happen first week of August, and it's a lot of content's going to come out from that, and that's going to be in the direction that I'm trying to move the channel into. So I'm really excited about that, and big stuff is coming. I'm really excited about these conversations, and I want to thank everybody for coming and taking part of this. When it comes to this topic, I'm going to be silent. I'm going to let you guys speak, but when I do like put in my first 2 cents on this topic, I'm going to be reading actually prepared statements. So I'm not going to be like addressing anybody else. And then I'll get into the conversation a little bit, but I thought about this, and I think my thoughts might surprise some people.
hey,
So
there's
let's get
one thing you forgot to mention, Raging, that you don't even know about yet. But a week from Saturday, Raging's going to be on my new channel, the Amateur Conversationalist, on Sunday. Week from Sunday.
Oh yeah, we can make that happen. It would have to be early, probably though.
Yeah,
I'm glad to know it was a surprise for Nakasuchi.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I told him he was going to be on either this week or next week, and this Sunday's Jim Majors, so Sunday after
Right.
is going to be the Raging.
Yeah, Sundays are good as long as it's like earlier.
Yeah. Anytime you want, buddy.
It's like, hey, by the way, I've scheduled you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know that.
So, to open up a little bit, I wanted to give you guys each just a couple of minutes to kind of put forward your initial thoughts on the topic of when religion becomes harmful. I think it's kind of been central to the discussion that a lot of us have been having about anti-theism, is this idea of religious harm. And there have been a lot of discussions around things like, the Buddhist sort of genocide that's going on in Myanmar, and like what goes on in, like the Hindu states and things of that nature. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about when religion becomes harmful. We'll go in the same order that we did introductions in. So John, you'll go first.
Well, let me just say that there are a lot of inherent things to religion that can make them harmful. I think what it boils down to is there's a lot of people that can be harmful, and they wield their religion to do so. I would say that I don't identify as an anti-theist, however, and that I guess in a nutshell, where religions can become harmful is like the old phrase that, your right to swing your arm ends at the tip of my nose, that kind of thing. So that's all I got to say to start with.
Okay, Nathaniel?
Yeah. All right. I'm guessing my voice is still super low, but that's okay. I'm going to roll with that. Whenever I speak about religion, because of the people that I speak with and who we protest, and we protest bigotry, especially here in DFW and around the country, my specific points are pointed directly at the big three, the so-called monotheistic religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And to me, religion becomes dangerous the moment a person enters a church, a synagogue, or a mosque, because the information that they're hearing immediately is a brainwashed sense of morality in which certain things would not exist without these negative ideals. The idea of abstinence only until marriage, and the Catholic idea of no condoms during sexual activity, and many, many, many other things, including but not limited to 9/11 and other terrorist acts that are also committed by Christians here in the United States, especially things like when they bomb things like Planned Parenthood, would not happen without religious ideology. And so I think religion becomes dangerous the moment that a person enters a religious house of worship. And that includes children as well. And that's why I also consider we're moving into not considering this veneer of what they call moderate religion, but that's just a veil for fundamentalism. And that's all incredibly dangerous.
Okay, Ocean, your take. By the way, after everybody does their initial sort of take on things, I'll open the floor up for discussion to respond to one another. I'll probably fade into the background and just make sure everybody gets to talk if they want to.
So I have some disagreements actually with what Nathaniel just said, but rather than address it, I'll just talk about my position more or less. I actually made a video on this a couple days ago called A Polytheist on Superstition. And in it, what I do is I define superstition in the ancient Greek setting of the term, which is essentially so I used the Greek philosopher Theophrastus in order to articulate this. And Theophrastus said that superstition was essentially fear of the gods. And what I expand on that with is to say that it's fear of the gods in such a way that it infringes on the life of yourself or others. So when we get into, say, Christianity and their admonishment of gay marriage, for example, it's their fear of their deity is such to the point where they're trying to enforce it on other people. And this is where we get into religion being very dangerous. A personal spirituality can be dangerous to oneself in a situation in which holding the religion becomes debilitating, which is the example specifically given by Theophrastus. He talks about somebody that is so laden by their adherence to ritual that it starts to ruin their life. And that the reason why they're doing that is because of fear of deity. Now, I think that one of the things that I find that anti-theists are actually very concerned about, and where this line is when religion becomes very dangerous, is when they start to use religions as an excuse to assert power over other people or to impede on other people's lives in a way that restricts their liberty and freedoms. So that's essentially my position when it comes right down to it. And I go into this a little bit more in my video. So it's about 8 minutes long.
Okay, that would bring it over to you, Cirrus.
Okay, I think for me, my position ends up boiling down to the religion's only as dangerous as the harm that can potentially come from it. So for that, we have to measure any particular religion and say, okay, so what kind of harm can come from this belief? If we take something like Christianity, we look at that and go, okay, so Christianity at its baseline is believing in Christ, and that's all that is really required to be saved and be part of the religion in most cases. And that's not harmful in and of its own until you start reading the rest of the Bible and you get into things like Leviticus, or you get into like the justifications of slavery that even extend into the New Testament. Once you start getting into stuff like that, then you have religious harm in general. So for me, I think harm ends up being not necessarily from God belief in any way, but it comes from dogma more than anything else. If there's a dogma that you have to adhere to for any reason, I see that as something that can be incredibly harmful, especially if the dogma, as is so often the case in something like Christianity or Islam, is considered ordained by God. When it's considered ordained by God, you then have the question of, well, who are you as a human to question what God says? And then you can use that as a justifier for practically anything. Somebody is a homophobe and you say, well, you shouldn't be a homophobe. You need to actually understand this is a human being. And they, like you, deserve rights. And they go, well, God says that they deserve to be killed. And who are you to judge God? Who are you to assert anything over and above what God wants? And so that's when I think it's mainly harmful, is when you've got some type of doctrine or some type of dogma that necessitates that you don't treat people as equals. That's when I find the issue. And then when that dogma, unlike something like, say, a political stance, also happens to include the unassailability, as it were, of divine authority.
All right. Well, thank you, Cirrus. AR, you're up. And we're having mic issues again. Should I hand it
Damn
over?
it, Sean.
Should I hand it over to TRA while you figure out what's going on with your port? Okay.
AR, I think you should. I
TRA,
think you should
I'll let
kill.
you do your statement while he tries to get his mic fixed.
All right, let me finish writing this real quick.
I was just gonna say, AR, you might have to kill the green screen, man.
I don't think his green screen would actually cause the problems with his.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think so
it
either.
says USB port. This has happened before.
So is it the port and not the wire?
I think so.
Because if it's the port, that's going to be solved here. I mean, I can't solve it immediately, but tomorrow I'm actually sending AR a new laptop via the post office. So, I mean, at least that situation will remedy itself, but not in the immediate.
Yeah, I think it's.
Holy shit! What was
Well, something came through, but I don't believe it was words.
that? Was
Ashley-
terrifying.
Ashley, we need to just get out of here.
All right, I'm coming in.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm
That noise.
possessed. Like
I think
I'm
your
not
mic is possessed, dude.
There you are, AR. There you
Yeah,
are.
I hear AR now,
I
but
think that's where,
Nathan's,
the
that's where-
microphone gremlin is traveling back and
Yeah,
forth between
no,
our
no, no,
accounts.
Nathan's demon fixed your microphone.
minor
Right,
TRA's
this is-
ancestors or
this-
something? Like what happened here, AR? What have you been
Hey,
doing?
wait a minute. I think this is an example of when religion becomes dangerous.
There are
Okay.
two Reconstructionists in the panel, and now all the technology is being
That's
destroyed.
what's happening.
Don't get anywhere near medical equipment at all. There's now an axiom for keeping pagans away from medical equipment.
This is always the problem.
God damn it! All right.
Does this,
Yeah, I know a few
does this-
pagans that are nurses too, so this is
Is
just
this-
this is not good.
Does this mean my CPAP machine's not going to work tonight when I go to bed?
Hey
Yes.
guys, if we want to
Did it
keep this
die
thing
again?
to a
No.
reasonable length, we need to let him have his opening statement.
All right, Rage, come on.
All right, AR, can you speak now?
Yeah, I can, but I
Yeah,
thought you were gonna go.
No, you can go for it. I'll go last.
All right, so what I was trying to say earlier was that my position is very similar to that of Cirrus's and Ocean's here. Honestly, I don't believe religion to be inherently harmful, but as soon as you extend it to the people that don't believe it, as soon as you start to use it to justify cultural destruction, similarly to the way we did with Manifest Destiny, when you start to use it to restrict people's sexuality and their gender identity, those are the things that I take the most harm with. And I don't know. That's basically my stance on it.
All right. So that means the floor is with you, TRA, and I'll give a brief sort of opinion too, because I have a slightly different approach, a little bit, I think, from Ocean. Like we agree for the most part, but there's an addition sort of layer that I'd add.
I'd agree that the superstition position that I hold is not comprehensive. I think that Cirrus actually brought up a few other things that, as far as like dogma, which he and I have talked about before, that are good additions onto that.
But I know I really like as far as like our last conversation, Ocean, with my last live stream, and I was talking about anti-Abrahamics. I like anti-superstition a lot better, personally.
Yeah,
So,
as that part of that part of my, I think that I believe we had that conversation before.
Yeah,
that video, because
yeah, we
there's a couple of the recent conversation I'd had influenced that video. I think the one with you had as well.
yeah, we did speak privately about it as well. Yeah, so I know I really like that term, but I do also like what Cirrus just said about dogma. I think I agree wholeheartedly with that. Okay, so I think I'm going to come from like a humanist point. This has been really what I've been trying to find in myself recently. Yeah, I wrote a statement, and then that'll be like my initial thoughts, and then we can just go, whoever wants to. So it's, for me, this has been a heavy issue, especially recently, if you've been following my channel. For a long time, I hated all religion. I hated Christianity because God failed me. I hated Wonka Tonka because the first peoples rejected me, and because of my white blood. I hated Buddha because I never found the peace that religion seemed to promise. For 10 years, at least, that anger was never addressed. It sat inside of me, even when I stopped caring and I started talking about it when I could, my family would just shut me down. This anger was apparent when I started this channel, but soon it began to change. I began to meet believers that actually accepted me for who I was. That Christian vlogger, I was at 50 subscribers. I made a really angry video at him, and he was at 75,000 subscribers, and he reached out in kindness and accepted me. And in a couple weeks, he's going to be here. You know, you're going to change from those experiences. This thing for me is ever evolving, ever changing. A year ago, I would have said that this is a stupid fucking question because all religion is dangerous, point blank, and I don't want to talk about anything else. But I no longer think that, and I no longer feel it within my bones. To me, to think that God belief itself is dangerous is to say it's some kind of mental illness, and I don't believe that, and I hope I never believe that. I do not think religion itself is dangerous, but what is truly dangerous is the fragile mental states of human beings. And while I have never met a God that I believe in, and if I ever make the time, I'm going to learn about more, because you should always be open to being wrong. And that's my initial thoughts is I don't think it's that religion can be dangerous. I think people can be, and it's the people that we have to fight against. So that's where I'm at.
Right, well, thank you, everybody. I wanted to just sort of add that I'm in sort of the same position as Ocean. I don't particularly like when superstition becomes policy and when God fear sort of overrides somebody's sense. He and I had a conversation after that video talking about how, like, that sort of God fear can be projected onto vulnerable groups via cognitive dissonance for a believer, and that's where a lot of harm can come from. But I also think there's something to be said for when a group values tradition over human life and the needs of a congregation or the needs of a group. There's some of that going on in my particular community at the moment, and we've been talking extensively about that. And I think that there's a fetishization of tradition that can go on within religious groups in particular, but in fundamentalist groups in general, that can end up poisoning the well towards the needs of the people that this, group is supposed to be serving. And that's where, it becomes dangerous and harmful. So I'm going to open up the floor for everybody to respond to one another if they want to. If people start talking over one another, then I might step in to kind of like mute somebody and be like, okay, well, you get to talk and you get to talk. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be civil. So
can I respond to that?
Is it all right if I ask Nathaniel a question to start with?
Real quick, but I want to respond to what Ashley just said because it's
go ahead, Ocean.
Pagan stuff. Because I have a lot of agreement with what you just said about putting tradition over essentially moral structures. So when someone puts tradition on top of human rights, I think that actually fits into what I would consider superstition. Why is that happening? Shit, I'm getting a phone call. Why would somebody put tradition over someone else's freedom if not because of fear of deity? And this is something that I think that we've seen pop up. I know the particulars of the individuals that you're talking about, and yeah, I think that's a huge problem. And it comes with elements of gatekeeping and purity testing that shows up in certain elements of the pagan community.
Yeah, and I think the particular organization we're talking about also cites, I guess, specifics to the culture that the religion originates from about what marriage means. They won't bar LGBTQ participation from their rights, but they will refuse to perform marriages, and a lot of other Hellenist organizations take issue with this. If you guys want to respond, I remember both Ocean and John said that you guys had questions for Nathaniel. Ocean, you just got to talk. John, if you want to
go for it, John.
Question, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to Nathan real quick about his opening statement and maybe get him to clarify but at any rate, you had said that the minute that you walk into a church, mosque, or synagogue, that's when religious becomes dangerous. You don't intend that to mean that the minute anybody walks into a church, mosque, or synagogue, they become inherently dangerous because of religion, do you?
No, not at all. But the moment that anybody hears that message, which is the message that has to do with exclusivity, has to do with death, has to do with violence, because all of it does, every single one of them are, all three of them, which again is what I'm specifically speaking about, are inherently dangerous, inherently violent. The minute that somebody sits down and listens to that and becomes indoctrinated, that only happens when they go into their church, into their synagogue, and then they go and they tell their children about that.
Do you mean to say it can happen?
That is,
it doesn't necessarily happen to everybody that hears that message.
No, of course not. But that's why it's dangerous.
Actually, there's a concept that I'd like to bring up here that actually has a lot to do with this. Two things. One clarification from Nathaniel, if possible. When you say church, synagogue, or mosque, you're also meaning, I would assume you're also meaning in a digital sense. So, for instance, someone like Steven Anderson may have a church that only services about 300 people, but he has a YouTube channel that services 120,000. So I'd imagine that that you would extend the definition of church to be just the audience at that point, right?
Can I offer a point of clarification that maybe Nathaniel means is that not that the moment a person enters a church they are dangerous, but that they are in a sort of danger.
That's correct. The message. I mean, Kenneth Copeland is coming to Fort Worth. Well, he lives here. The mother lives here, but he's coming to Fort Worth, and he's going to be giving this huge, you send me money, I'm gonna make sure God heals all of your stuff. Just help me buy another airplane bullshit, right? And he tells that to millions of people. So yes, it's anybody that receives the message.
It could be because the message is dangerous, but not everybody that hears the message is necessarily going to take up those dangerous ideals and dogma. I mean, here's the thing.
That's why it's dangerous and where it's dangerous.
Yeah, so before Ocean gets his point, and I'm sorry to interrupt one more time, John, but there was a secondary point to my clarification.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So the reason that I wanted to bring up a secondary point is there actually is a concept that's being discussed in sociological circles, especially since the Christchurch shooting, and that is the concept of what's called stochastic terrorism. Are you aware of that concept at all, John?
I love this concept.
Say it again.
I do too.
It is stochastic. The pronunciation matters only because stochastic means random. So
stochastic terrorism has been discussed a lot in the leftist community as well. Like when people talk about the alt-right pipeline, that's frequently referenced.
Yes. So stochastic terrorism is an academic counter, as it were, to a claim of slippery slope, basically. So whenever, as an example, person A says, like, let's say person A is Nathaniel, and says that by having the platform that someone like Steven Anderson does, he leads to more violence because Anderson's platform is a violent platform. I don't think this is something that's up for discussion. So Anderson's platform is a violent platform. Therefore, he is teaching a violent rhetoric to his people. And John's point is that, well, not everybody will buy into the violent rhetoric because, and this is because there's a thing called the slippery slope fallacy, as I'm imagining where this kind of comes from. The slippery slope fallacy, for those who don't already know in the audience, is the idea that A must lead to B, must lead to C, must lead to D. If there's any point in A, B, C, and D that someone can stop, then to say that it necessarily leads to D is a slippery slope. Counter to that, though, is the idea of stochastic terrorism or random terrorism. Stochastic terrorism is the idea, imagine it a little bit like a sales funnel, if you would. And John, have you ever done sales or marketing before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you're aware of the sales funnel where at the top you have people who are willing to listen to you, and then as the funnel gets smaller and smaller, you have different levels of action that people are willing to take based on your sales pitch, correct?
Right.
Okay, so the stochastic model is basically saying that by having that violent rhetoric, the same way a sales funnel would operate, there is a chance, however random, this is the stochastic nature of the problem, is that someone can find themselves at the D, for instance. So
here's part of where I have and for lack of a better term, why I have a problem with what Nathaniel said, and I don't mean a problem like I have a problem with Nathaniel, but see, the thing of it is that I don't accept his premise that every single church, synagogue, and mosque is preaching hate. Okay, because the thing is I was a Christian for 35 years. I went to church for many, many years, and I never heard a message of hate when I went to the church I was going to. I never heard a preacher once get up and talk against gay people, talk, against adulterers, talk against, to go out and do any kind of violence or, to preach hate from the Bible. And the reason that happened in the church I belonged to is because they were the type of Christians that were ignoring parts of the Bible and coming up with their own telling of the Bible. I mean,
did those Christians at any point have the position that people are inherently flawed and deserve to burn, like in any capacity, even a small one?
You're talking about like going to hell, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was a concept of hell if you didn't sin, but that's
basically just even any concept of eternal punishment, not even like, because every Christian has a different idea of what hell is in their mind. It's
right.
The version of hell in Christianity is nowhere near as definitively constructed as it is in Islam, I guess you would say, because in Islam there actually are hadiths that explain in violent detail what happens in hell, to the point where they even have a name for the fruit that you'll be eating that I've coined nuclear fruit.
I mean, here's the thing is, like, I've often said that, okay, it's a good thing that the majority of Christians actually have a morality that's based on secular values, because if all Christians actually got their morality from the hate that Nathaniel is saying that some churches spew, and they were actually getting their morality from the Bible, our society would be a hellscape on a daily basis.
At least they can get their morality. Hold on, they can get their morality from the Bible. It just happens to be different points of the Bible. Like a lot of Christians will say that they believe that that you should be good to your neighbor because Jesus said so.
Well,
like
right, but what I'm saying is, if they were biblical literates, though, and the society would be a hellscape because there would be killings on a daily basis. I mean, people would be running around.
What you're saying is, if like 100% of people were Steven Anderson, or 100% of Christians were Steven Anderson or Matt Powell, it would be. But unfortunately, human beings progress, and most religions have progressed, and I would argue that even Islam has progressed, although I would say that it's probably progressed less, because human beings progress,
Guys, can we give Nathaniel a chance to actually respond to the things that
please, because I don't want
to
I don't want Nathaniel to feel ganged up on here, because this is a place of friends.
I think I actually agree with Nathaniel a little bit more. I'm having because the disagreement that I'm having is actually with you. Because I think that once you start introducing hell belief into something, where now when a Christian believes that you or Muslim or anybody that's holding some kind of hell belief like this, that you ought to burn for all of eternity for being you, unless you adhere to their faith. That is an incredibly dangerous position.
I don't think all Christians believe that, though.
I think that any Christian that believes in sin or believes in hell is a huge majority.
This is second round. Please let Nathaniel respond to. There's been a lot of points brought up. I want to let him give a chance after.
No, hold on. Let Nathaniel do his thing.
Sorry, I was just speaking generally about it. Like, I think that Christians and Christians that believe in hell and sin are in the massive majority. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I like agree with everything you just said. So.
I just want to give Nathaniel a chance to respond to you guys, and then I want to give AR a chance to weigh in because he hasn't gotten to speak much yet.
Yeah, let me give you a couple of examples of kind of what I'm talking about. I was a youth pastor at an evangelical church, and I grew up. Well, my grandparents were Methodist, but whenever I first moved down to Texas, because my mom hates me and made me do it before I could say no, I went to a Baptist church, and every single Sunday morning at a Baptist church, there was a turn or burn. This is not a Matt Powell, NIFB, Steven Anderson, Westboro Baptist. It wasn't anything like that. It was a Southern Baptist Calvary. I hate the fact that cavalry and Calvary are so close together. Whatever.
It's like what, ridden on a horse?
Yep. Calvary Baptist Church in Orange, Texas, and every single Sunday morning it was, what if you walk outside the doors right now and get hit by a bus and die? Do you want to go to hell? That's dangerous. Also, and this is a question that I have gone over in my head many, many, many times. If a nuclear missile were dropped on New York City tonight, there is a substantial part of the population that would cheer for that because they would see it as part of the beginning of the apocalypse. And that is dangerous. And I don't mean to say that every single person that goes to church is dangerous, but the messages that are taught in churches are dangerous because they teach this exclusivity and because they teach that you either turn and do things our way or you're going to burn in hell forever. And they tell this to children. Or if you go into a mosque, now mosque is not the same as church, obviously, but if you read the Quran, it says, and as Suris mentioned in very graphic details, exactly what hell is. And if you read anything in Judaism, so just read the Old Testament, that's their guy. This is all inherently dangerous. And a person that sits down and reads that and preaches from that, the people that listen to that, it is the brainwashing that comes from that is inherently dangerous. And it happens, and it can happen the first time you walk into a church. I don't care how great you think the church is, how loving the people are. They're telling people either do things the way we say or you're going to go to hell. That's dangerous.
I mean, how do you account for churches that, I mean, there's some sects of Christianity out there that embrace homosexuals. I mean, and the Bible would tell them that homosexuals are going to burn in hell, but they
have different perspectives.
Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You get some interpretations of Christianity, like when you get into Episcopalianism, that actually Episcopalians are divided on this as to whether or not homosexuality is a sin. You get some of them that are fine with there being homosexual priests or homosexual bishops in some cases, but that they still view it as a sin, that is their sin like any other sin. And then you also get that Episcopalians who believe in that the church should support gay marriage because it's not a sin. So, this Christians differ wildly on this, but that doesn't mean that I think that the trend within Christianity is overwhelmingly towards the idea that homosexuality is a sin, tolerated or not.
Well, and I guess the reason that I'm having such a tough time with this is because, as I've said in other streams, the only place that I encounter atheists or people is online, and everybody in my sphere of influence, everybody in my life whom I know and love, they're all Christians, and I've not once had anybody in my family or any of my friends that are Christian. I've never heard them say, you or so-and-so is going to or should burn in hell because of behavior A, B, or C.
John,
it's also just impolite. So let's say,
that's what I was
for
going to
example,
say, Ocean.
Yeah, if I've worked with Christians, I've hung out with Christians, et cetera, and I know that a lot of them are, they're nice and good people, and then I'll defend Christians on that all the fucking time. It's like, you know what, it's their heart's in the right place and all that crap. But with a lot of Christians, as well-intentioned as they are, when you press them on the issue of like, hey, does somebody who does not receive the salvation of Christ deserve to burn for all eternity? What do you actually believe on that? Where you start asking them that question. They may not express it to you all the fucking time, but a lot of them, they hold that position about you.
It's a fundamental doctrine in their religion. And I mean, like even my family that try to be cool with me and, I accept you as you are. I see the snide sneers and like you can see it behind their eyes. They're just thinking, he's going to hell.
I've never experienced that. I mean,
can I maybe
you should start asking your Christian friends about it and see whether or not they think you deserve to go to hell for not accepting Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to some of them about it. I mean, let me just say too. I mean, I'm not trying.
Do they say no?
I'm not trying to.
Like, what if when you've talked to some of them about it, have they said no? You can still go to heaven without the salvation of Jesus Christ.
When you guys reach an end to this particular like line of thought, do you mind if I bring AR in really quick because he hasn't gotten
Yeah,
to
sure.
talk very much?
Yeah, I mean, and just to answer your question, some of them have alluded to the idea that I need Jesus in my life. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
here,
that comes
but
up,
here's
right?
the thing. Let me just say that I'm not trying to blow back at all you. Like most, what Nathaniel said about the horrible messages that go out from some churches, I totally agree. And what Ocean and the Raging Atheist and Surus said about dogma and the danger that can come from that, if people take it to the extreme. I agree with all that, but yeah, I just have a tough time. I just have a tough time denouncing a lot of the actual people because, as you agreed, Ocean, a lot of those people are good people.
Well, remember,
real quick,
it's not denouncing
point
the people.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me say something just real quick. That sorry, I know I'm hogging a little bit, but
I just want to make a little clarification. Go ahead, Ocean.
yeah, I think that with what I was talking about superstition, the Christian ideas of hell and sin are guarantees of them enforcing superstition. Go ahead.
I just really wanted to quickly say that I thought about it and I am being wrong. I do have like 2 cousins that I've never actually met that are Christian. They're down south, surrounded by Christians, and they completely 100% accept me for who I am and have been just absolutely wonderful. And I do not think that a single thought of me going to hell has ever crossed their mind. So I wanted to make that clarification.
There's a right after this, I'm gonna let AR get to his point. But the idea of like the base belief that so can we all agree that we're talking about not individual people, but we're talking about a base belief that can entail other beliefs, correct? So a base belief that people deserve to burn in hell because we're flawed.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me rephrase this in a way that will maybe give some context. So a base belief that people are flawed and therefore burn in hell doesn't necessarily entail that, oh, well, this person is going to go to hell because they're gay, but gay is a sin. And if they don't believe in Jesus Christ, then they're going to deserve to burn in hell for one reason or another, one of which is the sin of being gay. If we rephrase this into something like, let's take another base belief. Let's take something like racism. Can there be racists who accept people who are outside of their race and their paradigm? Yes. Can there be racists who are completely kind to people who are outside of their purview and paradigm and race? Absolutely. But is that belief itself still intrinsically harmful, and does it still entail cognitive dissonance or otherwise the harmful beliefs that are subsidiaries of the base one? Yes.
Hard agree with Cirrus.
All right.
So is
All right,
this,
so
Yeah.
guys,
AR,
AR.
I was just going to ask, is this going to be like a Jimmy Kimmel thing? Or are we going to get to the end and say, sorry, AR, we ran out of time?
God damn it, no, AR.
I thought. I'm
Honestly,
sorry. I'm
I
sorry,
honestly-
Ocean. I
just wanted-
I thought AR was pulling the Cheshire. Oh, did I say it? Did I say it?
Okay. Going
Huh?
back on this, the fear of God and how it can lead to like this sort of superstitious belief and dogma. Another issue that I wanted to bring up is that oftentimes this sort of fear will even follow a person after they've left religion. I have friends right now that still have nightmares about hell, even though they've been deconverted for years. And something else that worries me is like perhaps, and I know this isn't inherent within like every sect of Christianity, but like the hatred of homosexual people, for instance, I kind of worry that might even follow them after they leave religion. And it seems like sometimes it'll have lasting effects, even though they've been deconverted. Just
Well, I mean,
throwing
it
that
can
out there. And at
it
some
can become
point,
a
I
core
do.
part of your identity.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I do want to throw a little something out there right now. At some point, I would like to talk about radicalization, especially due to the NIFB, because there's a couple of individuals who are younger than 18. They're minors. Jonathan Cragen and Guzman 1611 here on YouTube that
I met him.
could explain some of the harms that could come out of like this sort of dogma out of like certain sects of Christianity.
I wanted to piggyback off of what you were talking about lasting effects a little bit. This seems like something that's really minor, but I grew up like super, I don't know, we were a weird sort of evangelical church growing up. Like they didn't have problems with like homosexuality, but they did have like hardcore gender roles to the point where women weren't allowed to go on mission trips and things. And that was part of where I started to have issues with the religion. Was I was very, very faithful, but I was also too smart for a lot of the stuff that they were teaching, and I asked a lot of questions they couldn't answer. But one of the things when I became a pagan that I had to shake was tacking on "in Jesus' name I pray" to all of my prayers and stuff like that. Like and that fear of hell, that question of am I doing the wrong thing? Am I worshiping Satan? Like that stuff haunted me for a number of years, even as I found like a lot of joy in my new spirituality. So like I completely agree with you that this stuff can follow you out. And I think to a certain degree we're seeing that on the reactionary side of the atheist community, when you see a lot of the people that carry the skeptic moniker and use like their disgust and the sort of fundamentalist ideas to push that within the atheist community. I think that there might be some of that going on there too.
This is what I've talked about in another video actually called Latent Christianity. We discussed a lot of those kind of
Oh
things.
yeah, you did. I saw that one.
I haven't watched enough of your videos. I'm sorry, man.
Everybody should always watch all my videos on my channel.
Yeah, you should get. You're monetized, right? So that would help.
No, I'm not.
I agree with that, by the way.
Do they
Everybody should
actually
watch all of
demonetize
those
you?
videos.
No. Here's the thing: is that my channel situation right now is that I needed 1,000 subscribers, and I was like, oh man, it's gonna take forever for me to get 1,000 subscribers, and that I hit the subscriber mark, and I was like, oh well, okay, so I haven't hit the watch hour mark.
Yeah,
I'm about maybe 2/3 of the way there. I have 2,000
Jeez.
subs now.
This is why
So-
we actually tried doing a restream thing where we tried to stream Hammered Out to both his channel and mine at the same time to kind of like give some watch hours over to his channel. And I mean, it's as much
But I'm
his show as it
pagan.
is mine. But because the dude is the bane of technology. Just setting up
no, here's
restream on
the
my
thing.
end.
Here's the thing. I am such a bane of technology that Surus cannot, from Surus's computer, doing everything within Surus's power, being the only person doing anything, simul stream to both of our channels. It's because I'm pagan.
What is the
Yeah.
watch hour? What is the watch hour threshold? How
Is it 4,000?
4,000
Yeah,
hours.
4,000 hours.
4,000
Like
days.
200.
No,
Yeah.
4,000
4,000
hours. Don't even.
That's no, never mind. 4,000 hours.
So
yeah.
I have
4,000, I thought it was 4,000 minutes, so it's
40,000
not.
minutes, I think.
I have a question.
Don't quote me on that.
It's about
Oh,
200,000
I get
minutes.
it now. I know what you're talking about now, and that
I
really
have-
sucks, dude. Because yeah, you have risen like really fast.
Yeah, but I'm not
Nathaniel had
monetized at all.
Nathaniel had a question.
I do. I don't mean to get us back on track. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, no, that's you're
but-
thinned.
I have a question. So, and it's actually it's two examples. So please let me get them both out. What is, because you talked about radicalization and extremism, and it's just fundamentalism. What is the difference, or what is the point that a moderate Muslim becomes a Muslim that throws homosexuals off of buildings and stones them, or flies an airplane into a building? And what is the difference, and what is the point to where it changes that a Christian decides, instead of just protesting the only Planned Parenthood in the state of Mississippi or something in Georgia, and instead decides to firebomb one or go and kill a doctor? Where does the change happen, and where does it come from, if not the religion?
I think it depends on the emphasis of the particular church. I think that there are some churches like the NIFB that so heavily emphasize the hell rhetoric and the anti this, that, or the other group rhetoric, where the people are more likely to become radicalized from them. Whereas I think some of the churches that we would describe as being more moderate, the ones that tend to preach the love message over the hate message and like de-emphasize the hell rhetoric, I think that those are less likely to produce fundamentalists that are going to then go out into the world and enact these things.
Sure.
Yeah. And I would just add on like Cyrus's original point that yes, I think some of these dogmas are extremely dangerous and speak to mental illness. So like I think when you get into the extreme behaviors of some, I think that I have to believe that it's more mental illness in a human condition than anything else. I mean, maybe that's just me being humanist, but that's just as I was thinking about this
I
topic coming in tonight
Disagree.
and where
I
I
have to-
am,
I have
just
to-
that's where I'm at.
I have to hard
disagree on that.
disagree with that one as well.
Yeah, that
So
doesn't strike me.
someone first of all, you'd have to categorically define what is a mental illness, and I'll go ahead and like stick with the DSM-5 on most things for that, just because it's safer and it doesn't add to stigmatization in doing so. I think that, but on that point, I think that having the position that mental illness is a prerequisite for someone to act inappropriately, I guess, is the really milquetoast way I can say this. If we use mental illness as the starting thing for somebody to act in a very bad way, I think that aids a lot in stigmatizing mental health, and I don't think that that's useful overall to any type of humanist perspective. I think trying to attribute bad faith acting to mental illness is intrinsically harmful.
I think it does two
Like,
things.
I agree with you there. So yeah, like I don't know, like this is why
Rachel,
I'm trying to listen more.
There's two objections that I have with that. One of them is like that I 100% agree with Suris, that saying that religious violence, for example, is a product of mental illness, stigmatizes mental illness for being violent in ways that there are exceptions.
Yeah.
And furthermore,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah.
It reduces the blame that is put on specific people that know what they're doing when they radicalize people. And that I think that the process of radicalization and brainwashing and those kind of things can happen to people that are of sound mind.
Yeah.
And
We also
if
kinda
you're
know
trying to
through-
say, if
so
you
do
want
I.
to,
I mean, it happened to me.
the problem with dismissing it and sweeping it under the table by saying, well, it's mental illness, is that now you've taken the responsibility away from the people that are doing the radicalization, and you're putting it on the people that are committing the religious violence and saying, well, they're just doing this, there's something wrong with them. And that we don't have to do anything about it. The thing that we have to do is start treating mental illness. Well, you might be able to put more efforts toward treating mental illness with that kind of rhetoric. However, what it does is it ignores what I think is the underlying problems, because I don't think that it's a random thing that it's like the individual has something wrong with their mind when this happens. I think that this kind of brainwashing definitely can happen to
agree.
people
I
that are
agree.
otherwise healthy.
Foot in my mouth, because I agree with everything you and Serge just said, and need to rethink that line of thought.
Yeah.
Well-
I do want to point out that historically we do know that perfectly sane people can be brought to do pretty horrific things. I mean, I don't want to appeal to Godwin's law, but we have World War II as a great example of that. And not just that, we also have the Stanford Prison Experiment.
Yeah.
Stanford Prison Experiment. What's the one with the shocking? I think you might be familiar.
The Stanford
was-
Prison Experiment, however, I'm gonna jump on you a little bit for that one, because there's been a number of things that have come to light about that experiment, like
You may not be
the
aware of them.
people that
They're
were
very
putting
bad
it on.
process.
Yeah, the people who were putting it on actively encouraged a lot of the behavior by the guards and pressured people into continuing that behavior even when they were uncomfortable with it. There have been a number of interviews and things that have kind of discredited some of the results of that. That said, there have been a number of other studies that show that in the presence of power, or an authority figure that appears to be condoning this thing, people are more likely, and that's more like the buzzer.
The shock
experiments.
therapy.
Yeah, the shock therapy
Yeah.
experiments.
It reminds me of that incident where somebody who claimed to be a cop called a fast food restaurant and said that one of the employees were stealing, and then they got them to strip this person.
Yeah, this I just wanted to make sure, in case we had any fundamentalists watching or something, or the comments are obviously going to be a cesspool regardless, but I wanted to make sure that you didn't get called out on that, because it is an important thing to note. I do think, however, before I give Nathaniel a chance to speak, because he's raised his hand several times, so I want to make sure he gets to talk again. I wanted to make a note that I think that fear in general is a very powerful mobilizing tool, and us versus them rhetoric and utilizing the sort of human tendency towards tribalism is an incredibly powerful tool. And in some ways, that's what makes things like the NIFB so dangerous, because you have these small, basically clades, about the size of, some of them, about the size of what you would see as a normal, say, village in olden times, so to speak, during our evolutionary history, pushing this us versus them rhetoric. We are the only ones who know. We are the ones who are saved. They are against us. The world is dangerous. And that can radicalize people in and of itself. This fear-based, they're coming for us. And the harder that gets pushed, the more likely somebody is going to be willing to take that sort of action. It's the kind of programming they do in the military. So I think that there is something to be said about that.
A lot of human behavior is fear-based.
This is one of the reasons why in military training, and this is I confirmed this with Aaron, who's been in the Navy, been through boot camp, and I'm in a military family. So this is also confirmed through the stuff that I've been able to confirm through people I have in my family who've been in the Air Force, Navy, Marines. There was a time where we focused almost exclusively on dehumanization of the enemy in order to generate a fear and a reprehension for the enemy in basic training, in order to gear soldiers for going to war. If you had a big enough fear or a big enough hatred for your enemy, you would attack them without thinking. But as people have become more cognizant and as people have humanized people on other sides of conflicts more, that strategy has now shifted a little bit. Where they don't just do the dehumanization portion. They don't just do this is the enemy, they must be destroyed and obliterated via shock and awe campaign. Now we also have included in that if you don't stop these people from hurting your friends and family, then nobody's going to stop them. Basically adding in not just the fear of the enemy, but adding in the fear of yours and your loved ones being harmed, or more pertinent to the situation, your unit being harmed by these people. It ends up being a huge justification campaign to make sure that any type of wartime atrocity, justified or otherwise, has a justification for the unit. And I think that type of rhetoric works just as well for training a military as it does for a congregation, and there's where a lot of the danger lies.
Hey, does anybody remember somebody?
John,
Yeah, I just
John,
want
can
to
you
jump
read
in real quick because somebody alluded to this earlier. Does anybody remember that quote about something about to get good people to do bad things takes this? Or
I hate that quote.
what?
Yeah.
Absolutely abhor that quote.
It ignores the fact that there are people. The full quote, for those who are in the audience and don't know it, is without religion, good people do good things and bad people do bad things. But with religion, you can get good people to do evil things. First and foremost problem, concepts of good and evil originated from religion. So without religion, you wouldn't have those same concepts of intrinsic good and evil in the same way. Secondly, ignoring the historical aspect, religion can both be a justifier for a good person to do a horrible, atrocious act, or can be a bulwark from a horrible, atrocious person committing an act because they are worried about eternal repercussion, depending on the particular dogmas of the religion at play. I think it's an incredibly unnuanced take.
I think that in addition to that, you can definitely get people to do evil things through politics as well, as we've seen with both the Nazi regimes and the Soviet regimes and various communist regimes.
I wasn't bringing it up because I subscribed to that idea.
I didn't think you did.
I'm just hammering home the point, essentially, that I think that when people are trying to say that religion is the sole cause of this kind of crap, which I have bumped into people that hold that position, that they seem to be ignoring like religious political motivations with still groups of people doing with very much the same effect.
That is also
fundamentalism is not exclusive to religion. I do really want to let Nathaniel speak though, because we've kind of been talking over him for a while, and he has repeatedly tried to respond to what people were saying.
Okay, let's stop Jimmy Kimmeling him.
Oh, I was writing comments in the YouTube chat.
It gets a little fun, doesn't it?
The one thing that I was kind of thinking of is looking at fundamentalism. Look at politics in the United States right now, and look at Democrat and Republican especially, and look at how people have, first off, the lionization of the military is a problem, because I absolutely know. Please don't look up to me just because I was in the military. That's a bad reason to look up to somebody, or just to justify basically ignorant looking up to somebody without getting to know them.
It's a form of genetic fallacy.
Yes, thank you.
The source is a military individual, therefore it's a good source.
Yeah, but you look at people who also continue to divide in politics by using religion as well. And that's a justification that's being used right now, especially by what we call the religious right. And there's this idea of if you are a Christian, then you have to have conservative ideals. especially if you're a white Christian. And it's like these are two fundamentalist positions, one of them taken by a political position, the other one taken by a religious position, and they are both dangerous. I can tell you, I don't know which one is more dangerous, because I have been the butt of both of them, especially recently. Go out in public and tell people that you're running against a far right conservative Christian who is super anti-abortion and actually was the one that introduced the KFC bill here in Texas, and tell them you're trying to take his seat, and hear the words they say. And that is far right fundamentalism and this far right religious conservatism as well. And it is very dangerous.
Well, talking about religion and politics too, if you're going to run for any sort of large office, you practically have to declare you're a Christian or you almost can't run. And there are laws against atheists running for office in certain states as well.
Can we get a clarification for the audience on what the KFC bill was? Just if you can be, Nathaniel, you are the most politically, probably one of the most politically adept people I know in this audience. But if you could make it concise, that would be amazing.
Sure. Basically, what it has the power to do. It has the power for employees of KFC to fire, or employers to fire LGBT people simply because they're gay. That's what it has the power to do. And that's the issue.
KFC was fighting for that freedom?
Not KFC, Chick-fil-A, sorry.
Chick-fil-A, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now it makes a lot more sense.
Sorry.
Now.
Did I say KFC? I
You
am
said
so
KFC.
sorry.
Bill.
KFC.
Sorry.
We're all like, wait, KFC bill.
We're all just
Like,
sitting
I know
there like, I know we're
Chick-fil-A
talking
bill
about the military, but why are you bringing the colonel into this?
I need to get more sleep.
So I just wanted to cut in really quick and give a reminder to the chat. Things are getting a little bit heated over there. Dissent is fine. Proselytizing and harassment are not. So just make sure you keep everything civil.
Yeah,
All
we got DD up in the chat. Everybody say hi to DD. What's up,
What's up,
DD?
Garth Dawkins?
Oh, what's
I
Dr.
didn't wanna-
Khan
Oh,
using
sorry,
today?
I don't say hi to troglodytes.
Hey,
I didn't want
Ashley,
to bring any drama. I just wanted to remind everybody about the rules. That's all.
hey, Ashley and the Raging Atheist also want to point out that Aaron Benton is in the chat.
Mhm.
Aaron's
I
a
know-
pretty cool guy.
I know we have a full house, but should we maybe have one Christian here?
I am open to having a Christian perspective come in, but that is up to the moderators. Mod is God.
Okay, as long as he's fine with being respectful and lets everybody take a turn and stuff, and as long as we all agree not to specifically dogpile, I'm fine with it. I think one.
Hold the phone. Are we talking about getting Darth Dawkins in here?
No,
Or we
no,
talking-
Aaron
God,
Benton.
no.
No, not Darth.
No, I don't want
Darth.
to.
I told Darth a one-on-one, and he's scared. Although he totally kicked my ass that first time.
It's like I'd be
Totally
surprised
kicked
if
my
Darth Dawkins even wants to show up in here with me in here.
Well, let me say something
ass.
about
Oh yeah, he's
Aaron.
probably scared of you, Ocean.
Is everybody else?
Aaron, I just want to say Aaron Benton is highly respectful and pretty easygoing, and
Okay.
He does have views that are disagreeable, but I think, defines them well. And yeah, I think John is right. He's always been disrespectful. He's
There's been a
he's
lot of
always
interesting
been
conversation about.
respectful.
There's been a lot of
Freudian
interesting
slip, Aaron.
conversation in here.
Freudian, but I will send you a link, Aaron, on Gmail.
He just said he can't come on. Actually, he has a date.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a date.
Okay.
All right, so this one guy's been patiently waiting as well, and he's a Christian. So if everybody's cool, we'll let him in. But that's up to the mod because I have no power.
Who's the other
She is
person?
Okay,
God.
so I'm very pro democracy. Is everybody fine with having a Christian in here so long as that Christian is respectful? Like that's my grounds. for that.
It's fine by me. I just don't want to know who it is.
Yeah, same.
See, this one guy is pretty respectful most of the time. He doesn't seem to carry any like.
Oh, if
He
it's
is
this,
a
if it's this
different-
one
Oh,
guy,
every
I'm
time
okay
someone
with that.
says this one guy, I think that I don't realize they're talking about a fucking username. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Good fucking damn it.
no, this one guy's
That's
actually
the
pretty
whole
cool.
point.
All right, this one guy. I'm gonna send you a link on Twitter.
what? Aaron's got a date, huh?
All right, the consensus
He is a
open.
he's kind of a sexy man. I mean, I think I've said that before. He's kind of a sexy man.
Well,
All
just
right, we'll take a
everybody
pause
play.
when he comes in then, and I'll let him do an opening statement and stuff, and then we can go back to the discussion on fundamentalism.
Hey, real quick too, I just want to clarify when Raging said DD in the house, he didn't mean divine disbelief. He was talking about Darth Dawkins.
I mean,
Yeah, my favorite troll. He's here to talk smack about your boy. We love Darth Dawkins because he's too scared to come for that third conversation. He won the first one. He's too scared to come for the third one.
Hey, I don't even see him. What username? Oh, Fred Gwynn.
Fred
Now I
Gwynn.
see him.
Fred Gwynn.
Eventually, I might want to have a go with him as long as he doesn't share the same type of views that Jesus is Lord does.
Oh man.
I just really have a lot of fun cussing him out. But the next time, I really want to I want to make it long. Like I want to give him as much time as he wants to really go at me, and I want to see my limit on rage. Like how far has the Raging Atheist
Rage, I have a question. Have you ever played a little-known game called League of Legends? Because if you really want to see your limit on rage, that is the way to do it.
I did play WoW, and I had some moments.
No. WoW
still-
cannot
yep.
get you to the same levels.
Cirrus,
WoW cannot.
I'm pretty sure you and Raz almost reached your guys' limits last night.
Oh yes.
You guys were losing it.
Actually, no. You have not seen me reach my limit. My limit was actually breaking a computer,
Oh gods.
which I have done. No, let's.
I have a question.
I'd be the one guy that plays League with the controller.
Okay.
Well,
Let's
real-
Nathaniel.
no, yeah, real quick. Because I was a Christian, evangelical Christian. I was a youth pastor, and I don't know how many other people in here were actually Christians before.
I was.
I
Okay.
was.
Sir, I didn't know you were.
Yeah, because I was.
Nathaniel, I
I
was a
was.
young Earth creationist. I was in. You're familiar with
wow.
Pensacola Christian Academy?
Oh,
I grew up in Pensacola Christian Academy, which, for those who aren't aware of the history, is funded by the original IFB and Seventh Day
Yeah.
Adventists.
yeah, I have been there when I was. We might have seen each other when I was in the Navy. Wait, how long? When were you there? If you don't mind.
I was there from '96 until 2003. I'm gonna say
Oh my gosh, we might have met back.
we might have actually
Yes.
seen each other.
Yes, because when I went to Naval Air Technical Training Center, Nancy, down in Pensacola, I went to all those little churches and stuff like that because I was super evangelical.
Oh, so you've been into the little St. John's church they have there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. That was the Pensacola revival thing, man.
We have conversations for post stream.
Yes,
All
we
right,
did.
guys. It looks like our new guest has joined. So I want to give him a chance to introduce himself and to do a quick opening statement on the subject.
Can I ask real quick before he does though? Did everybody answer Nathaniel's question? Everybody here except for this one guy is a former Christian.
I definitely am. Yes.
I am.
Okay, Ocean, I didn't know if you were.
Yeah, we all were. We all were then. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, former Baptist here.
Yeah,
I'm a
former
former-
evangelical, like you, Nathaniel.
A former Baptist, then Episcopalian, then Celtic Christian before I finally left the faith.
You went
Church-
backward.
Church of Christ for 35 years.
Oh no!
Just
Wow.
whatever suited my stepmom. She changed denominations every week. It seemed like sometimes.
Alrighty. So I wanted to let this one guy introduce himself really quick and give his opening statement.
All right, howdy ho, neighborinos. How's everyone doing? I'm doing good tonight. I really don't have an opening statement. I guess if I was gonna say anything, what Rage said earlier, the last little bit, I agree with that. I don't necessarily think religion is dangerous, although some ideas can be in it. But I think people just tend to be more dangerous and kind of flock to it because they think they can get away with some things because of, again, divine intervention and whatnot, and they kind of abuse the system. But
Like an
that's
appeal
just
to
my take, I guess.
an appeal to logos in a lot of ways.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that I've heard. Maybe it's just because I've been dealing with the fundamentalists. But I have been hearing a lot of appeals to
I love that you picked up that term.
I've been hearing a lot of
Fundamentalists.
yeah, the fundamentalists. I've been hearing a lot of well, so misogyny may be bad to you, but it's rooted in the divine logo. So I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking kick your teeth in.
In a video game.
No. I didn't call out a single
Set you
person.
on fire in Minecraft.
I did not call out an actual individual, so therefore there is no call to violence, and I am not going to backpedal on how I actually feel.
Alrighty. So we were
Let the
talking.
rage out, sirs. Let it out.
So we had sort of come to talking about fundamentalism and radicalization, and I wanted to give everybody a chance to weigh in on that if they wanted to.
Well, I just wanted to say, yeah, because referring back to my original statement and my written thoughts, like, yeah, I totally put my foot in the mouth because, like, I just really think that I think it's fundamentalism, which has been my stance the entire time. And as I said, Abrahamics, I have a severe issue with, deep dogmas. I have a severe issue with, and I don't see that from other faiths. I see problems in other faiths, but I don't see like this ability to go from being a good human being to being a bad human being overnight. And I see that in Abrahamics, and I needed to clarify because mental health is a very delicate issue that I should definitely rethink about how I'm using that when I'm not intending to do that.
See, that brings up the whole concept of Guzman, because I'm pretty sure that he would just be like your regular, normal, everyday kid who rides bikes with his friends if it wasn't for the new IFB. However, you get in chat rooms with the guy, and then these people are like reinforcing this extremely hateful belief on him. Like, I saw somebody ask him, like, if he just stumbled upon a house that was filled with homosexual people, what he would do. And he literally said that he would set it on fire. There are religious sects out there. Whatever. I'm just laughing at never mind.
So
there are religious chapters out there that enforce like this hate on people to such an extent where now this NIFB group is advocating for a theocracy in which there is a systemic genocide of LGBTQ people. They're using Guzman as a way to promote themselves to people that are around his age. For a while, they were using Jonathan Cragen to tackle older teens, and they're using Matt Powell right now to tackle the college age group.
Well, and it's dangerous in a lot of ways. They are like I literally... Yeah, I have valid reasons for my anger. So, my mom was an alcoholic, right? So, she had a lot of Christians telling her that if she just prayed, it would go away. And she did that, and it worked for like 2 years. Like, it worked, and then it didn't work, right? So she had me telling her, Mom, you need to go to rehab. You need to get help. You need to get help. You need to get help. And she had these Christians saying, pray harder, go to church more. And my mom fucking died because I was godless and she listened to them. I mean, like, I do have legitimate reasons for my anger, but I'm trying so hard to be humanist and try to see things in a different perspective, but it's like really hard for me sometimes.
I wasn't trying to say you didn't have any. Like,
no, I just had to say that. Like, it's just so dangerous sometimes. Like, just in very small ways that nobody even realizes sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that happened to your mom too.
Can I piggyback off of that a little bit? I think actually this is a good place to segue into talking about programs like AA. I know that it's kind of hit or miss for a lot of people, but the anonymous programs, there have been a lot more evidence-based treatment methods that have come out for alcoholism and drug use, and like addictive behavior patterns, things like CBT, things like, I'm trying to remember what the actual name of it is called, but a number of different rehab centers administer like a slow sort of dosing off of medication with additional things like talk therapy, sometimes EMDR if somebody's self-medicating for PTSD. And AA and programs like it, derivative programs like the Mormon version of AA, and there's also one I believe that Jehovah's Witnesses run, can, stop people from getting the help that they need when they're severe enough that they need like deep treatment. They say they have these very high success numbers, but nobody's ever actually been able to independently verify that. So I'm curious what everybody here thinks about that organization and, whether or not they're doing harm by stopping people from seeking evidence-based treatment.
I just want to point out that the word you were looking for there was tapering. That's what they do to slowly wean people off of their substance of choice.
Thank you, AR.
Yeah.
I think I've seen places in certain places where like the success rate of like AA is only like between 10 and 20%.
Well, and not only that, and sorry to interrupt you, sir, so you can go real quick, but just like all the children that get kicked out of their homes because their parents think that, homosexuality is a sin. And these teenagers have nowhere to go. Like, I've done videos on it before. It is dangerous. So like, I don't want to sit here and say it's not, but at the same time, like religion itself, I think that's the question, religion itself, because no, like not all religions are like Abrahamics.
Correct. Well, that's why I very specifically, whenever I started this, I spoke about like the people that we protest here in DFW. Like we protested Westboro Baptist Church this past weekend. There's a very specific type of bigotry that we protest, but also that I address very specifically the Abrahamic religions. You know, this idea that and especially because it's what I'm from, and it's my older brother is a conservative Christian, and it's actually my fault. So, you know, that doesn't feel great because I know that he's not necessarily making the cognitive decision that he would be making, like decisions he would be making otherwise. But when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous, no, it's very bad. There is nothing about me that says that the process that they have people go through is positive. It's not, because it takes everything off of them, and it's not about them. And this is something that I see a lot as well. It's like this whole dirty rags thing. We have to throw everything to Jesus or everything to God or everything to Allah or something like that, you know? And it's like, no, we're stronger than that and we can overcome these things.
Yeah, and I think the ultimate solution, or go ahead. I'm sorry, because I already interrupted before.
So the Alcoholics Anonymous is kind of interesting from my perspective, because from seeing how it works with people that I know that are polytheists that get so that there is alcoholism within heathenry, and you know, there's, you know, a lot of us have there's alcohol that's consumed in a lot of our rituals, and some people fall into this kind of situation of, well, now ritual is an excuse for them to get drunk.
You see something similar, particular with Dionysian rites in Hellenism.
Yeah, that's another good example. So then people are trying to recover from this, and they'll wind up going to something like Alcoholics Anonymous. Now they get told that their religion needs to be overridden by monotheism in some cases when they go. And there's no data on this, and it's not widely talked about because there's shame issues, and it's a pagan issue and pagan issues, there's just not enough of us in order to create any statistical data. But this is stuff that I've been told, is that they wind up being told that they have to get rid of their religion and adopt Christianity in order to kick the habit, which is ridiculous.
To be fair, I was a part of Overeaters Anonymous, and that pressure wasn't necessarily put on me. However, I did find that the whole Jesus take the wheel type idea behind it, even though they were inclusive to my faith, didn't align with the particular values promoted in my faith, and that's part of the reason I struggled with the program.
And here's the thing, is that I've heard that experience as well, that there's some groups within Alcoholics Anonymous, it depends on the group, right, of whether or not they're going to be inclusive.
Yeah,
And
AA failed my mother. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. They failed my mother. AA's got like a 10% success rate. It's for some people, it's not for others. What my mom needed was people telling her the truth, and she needed a detox so she could evaluate the truth clearly. And she just never got that point because they were pushing this religion like God was going to cure her, and God ain't there, and he's not, or that God ain't there, and that God ain't going to do it because that God don't give a shit.
You know, when I went to AA, I told them right up front that I was an atheist, and they were all cool with it. And they said, well, just think of God as good orderly direction. You know, the thing that I took most exception to is the part where you have to admit that you are powerless over alcohol. And my take on that was, well, wait a minute, I'm powerless over this thing. Well, how am I supposed to get over it then if I'm powerless over alcohol? Like,
and that's something that pops up with heathens as well, because heathens are very focused on action, and your agency being like a very important part of our, of our spiritual worldview. And with Christians, there's a value of submission. And that gets brought into this process that they have in Alcoholics Anonymous. With heathens, we don't recognize that submission as being like, in the same way that Christians do. We have an element of submission, but it's not that kind of Christian where like, oh, we are powerless and oh, we must, our actions are guided by that of God, etc., etc. That doesn't play well for us. And this is one of those elements of like, you have to abandon your beliefs in order to function within this structure.
Well, and I mean, like the alternative that they propose, which is, making the program sort of sit in that, still sort of denies one's agency, which is a problem for Hellenists also, especially Hellenists that ascribe to any of the various philosophical schools. Neoplatonists tend to have issues with this, and so do Stoics. Which is the camp that I'm in.
Sorry,
I can see that. I can see that going on with Stoics.
I'm not sure if this was said before because I kind of went on a rant about AA. I do still believe that like they have the highest success rate for recovery. So I'm by no means like disendorsing them. Like, please, if you go to AA.
Actually, we don't have comparative data on that to make that.
All right. So that's what I've always heard, and I think our favorite person, Messenger Reveals, backed that up. So yeah, thank you.
Sorry. I just wanted to jump in on that before like going back to just being a mod. I also wanted to give this one guy a chance to respond since he hasn't gotten a chance to talk yet, and give Cirrus the floor if he wants it because he hasn't gotten to talk much yet either. But they're actually the only data that we have, what little data there is, comes directly from Alcoholics Anonymous themselves, and they, by the nature of their structure, do not actually track that data on a large scale because of the anonymity sort of clause in their bylaws, so they wouldn't know. Basically, all they have are the words of the members that stick around and how long they've stuck around. They don't know how many people come in and never come back.
All right, yeah.
We do,
like I said, it failed my mom. It failed her. It did not help her at all.
We don't actually have any numbers on AA that are solid, and by the nature of the way the program structures, we'll never get them.
One of my biggest problems with LA is it seems to reinforce this like religious self-hatred in a lot of people. Like, it puts all the blame on them and forces them to like give their base.
I never understood going and apologizing to everybody you've ever fucking wronged. Like, I've been through the program myself a couple times. I've been through 5 different rehabilitation centers when I was a teenager, and I never understood that. Like what if I don't think I'm wrong? Who is to tell me what is wrong and right, and when did I step over the bounds and when did I not? And did I apologize to everybody I should have apologized to? I felt guilt over that. Like, did I not apologize to somebody? Like, I seriously did.
And keeping it there. And then it becomes a reason to fucking drink, right?
Yeah, it did. It did, Ocean. It fucking did.
Hey, can anybody, well, first of all, let me say, like, when I went to the meetings, I would say the success rate was apparent if you went to meetings for a long time because you would see people come in and get their one-day chip over and over again. I mean.
Yeah, I saw that happen too. I went to meetings with my mom for a little while.
I mean, when I went to NA, I do definitely... falling off the wagon.
I didn't have those.
But like at the same time, I'm not even quite sure if I'm really a drunk or if I'm a half drunk. These are my issues. These are my issues.
I mean, hey, does anybody ever heard that when AA first started, that one of the things they made people do was take a hit of LSD?
I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Yeah, did you see that?
Just in the chat. I wouldn't take anything in the chat.
I mean, I've had some fun on some LSD back in the day. I'm just saying.
Guys, we kind of need to refocus. I do.
Yeah, we're off topic.
Well, I mean, this is it's part of this AA discussion. I just want to know if the Raging Atheist.
I think that with the AA discussion, we should refocus. Actually.
Yeah, the AA discussion.
I just want to ask Raging. Well, hold on. I just want to ask this one question.
John, you were
the mod.
All right, John, we will discuss it later. Ask me.
I'm not trying to discuss it now. I just wanted to ask you if you knew who posted that. That's all I was going to say.
Oh no, I've had a lot of contact with the chat. I'm going to get back into it.
Okay. So I do think that we do need to recenter the AA discussion a little bit on religious harm specifically, because that's kind of the reason that it was brought up, like talking about pulling people away from evidence-based treatment and using religion as a proxy. But I did want to give this one guy a chance to respond to it because he hasn't gotten to talk much.
Well, I have no comment really. I've never knew anything that AA was surrounded by religion at all. I didn't know that, so that's actually quite interesting to know.
Primarily,
it's not by name. It's It's like they just use higher power rhetoric as well. But if the person in charge happens to be a Christian, it can be
Actually,
a tool for them to enforce it.
Actually, I'm fairly certain that Alcoholics Anonymous is a religious organization, not just in like
It is.
practice, but
Yeah.
in name. If memory
Bill-
serves, they have
Oh.
connection with the Mormon Church, don't
I
they?
didn't know
Bill
that.
Wilson was a Christian.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it
Not
has.
only that, but even with the meetings I went to, even after identifying as an atheist, they ended every meeting with a prayer, and that prayer
Yeah,
started.
no, they are
Yep.
they are not just religious in practice, they are religious in founding.
Yeah, absolutely.
The AA and NA meetings that I went to with my mom involved prayer at the very end of it. Can confirm that seems to be a thing in some chapters.
Yeah,
I watched
there
that
was
stupid
also-
ass Bill Wilson movie so many damn times in my life. It's pathetic.
For somebody in the know, is it connected with Mormonism or is it just a Christian thing?
Oh, I think
I know the Mormons have their own version of it.
yeah, the Mormons
Okay.
have a story, but I think he was Christian.
Yeah, the guy that started it, he was a Christian.
Yeah, I think he was a Christian,
But
but
he
the
wasn't,
Mormons
but not a
didn't.
Mormon. Okay.
Yeah, I
No,
don't
not,
think he
not
was
a
a
Mormon. Not a Mormon.
Copy that. All right, thank you.
I do want to say though that like part of the reason I brought it up is because I
Episcopal.
was part of Overeaters Anonymous, which was an offshoot from Alcoholics Anonymous, and I saw a lot of bulimics like myself and binge eaters who came to this and just dealt with shame after shame after shame. Like it was incredibly depressing to listen to the stories over and over because they didn't get actual evidence-based treatment. And it wasn't until I got CBT, which I'm still going through, that my own symptoms started to get better. So I think that these programs, even existing and having the religious bent they do, is a real cause for harm. And I think that it does have a place in the discussion if we focus sort of on that angle.
Well, I think that the reason why the religious angle on it is a problem is not because of the idea of God belief in it, but because of the elements of religion or the elements of Christianity specifically that it decides to enforce. Raging Atheist
Yeah,
talked a
I would
little bit
agree with
about
you with there.
Raging Atheist talked about the guilt angle on it, recognizing that you're powerless in order to control yourself. These are things that are harmful installations that come from a Christian background with it. Go ahead.
Well, I think there's also the idea that you can never have these things again, which is part of that you're powerless over it, that full recovery is not ever possible, which, one or two of my friends who have gone through more evidence-based treatments, one in particular went through CBT, and that's one of the reasons I keep bringing it up is because it's such an effective treatment for a lot of disorders of thinking. He's able to drink moderately now. He doesn't have the obsession that he used to around alcohol and such. And that sort of recovery would not have been possible for him under AA, even if AA did work. Granting
that flies in the face of a lot of the rhetoric that I hear about it, where it's like, no, you have to be completely sober for the rest of your life, or else you've fallen off the wagon if you take a sip. That does ring of like original sin, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and for anybody that doesn't know in the audience, I don't know if you defined that acronym before, but CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, it's cognitive behavioral therapy was actually founded by a Stoic, funnily enough, but it's the idea of restructuring your native patterns of thought in order to dispel lingering beliefs that are causing bad behavior. And it's it's got a bunch of scientific backing behind it. It's one of the most successful treatments for things like more mild cases of PTSD, and also things like binge eating disorder and bulimia and anorexia, etc. There's a number of different things that it can help treat, but it's really, really good therapy.
I don't know exactly how viable it still is now, but the model I went through when I was a teenager was that helped me the most was called the chronic disease model. I'm not sure if it's evolved and become another name, but I was very familiar with that model. And in that model, we learned about drugs. We learned what drugs would do to you. And we learned really how to survive through drug addiction. And it really helped me come out of really hard drug addiction and be just the kind of drinker smoking my weed for my glaucoma dude that I am now.
So do we have another topic that we want to bring up? Are we done with AA, or does anybody have any more thoughts?
So there's one thing, this is not bringing up a whole new topic, but apparently one of the members in my chat has let me know that they actually have an Episcopal history, not a Mormon history, is where they sit. Mormonism has an in-house thing called traditional family services or something like that. So just a point of clarification from earlier that was brought up in my chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, was that there was a different founding Christianity sect and that Mormons had their own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
always find it interesting when people make a distinction between Christians and Mormons.
Well, the main thing is that, like, so if I say Christian, I'm referring to any and all Christians, but usually for me, I'm going to make a distinction on different areas if I'm not referring to all. So, like, for me, there's Jehovah's Witnesses are different from Mormons, are different from evangelicals, are different from Catholics, are different from, like, all these are different from each other, but they are all still Christian.
I distinguish when they have different expansion packs. So when you have the Mormon expansion pack, I consider you a different faith than when you just have the New Testament expansion pack. If you're using the Quran expansion pack, then that's a completely different section, right? So
Yeah.
right, it depends on what mods you're using. So
Yeah, I think like delving into like cults and subsegments like Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, there are definitely NIFB, definitely crazier segments of Christianity.
So do you consider evangelicals to have restricted content then? Considering
so basically, yeah, what's going on with evangelicals on that front is that they've managed to mod the game without actually changing any of the code, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, they got some weird DLC that I don't have access to.
The Pentecostals have like only a very small DLC pack, but somehow it means you can get bit by fucking snakes.
I
Yeah.
mean, Jehovah's Witnesses, their mods have gone completely out of control. Like they've seized like total dictatorship over the server.
Well, I
All
have
right, just putting it out there,
Wait,
guys. I
what?
think we started 6 minutes late, so we have 25 minutes.
okay.
Were you guys just talking about religion in terms of like video games?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't what we were doing at all.
I
I swear
got
it was not.
distracted by the chat and then just like caught me off guard when I like jumped back in.
I remember
Yeah.
when the Gnostics almost became the predominant faith, but then the Nintendo 64 disk drive system stopped being in production.
Also, AR Ocean referred to the Book of Mormon as an expansion pack for Christianity.
That's
I mean,
weird.
I'd say it's almost like a retcon, really, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the mods wind up changing a lot of the original files with that one, but you know, it's still an expansion pack.
Yeah, but they can't rewrite the files though. We've asked them a million times. That
They can't fucking patch
They
it no
lost the
matter
source
how much
code.
we ask.
that's a
Spaghetti
joke.
code, man. Spaghetti code.
So I actually
Next
had.
week we want to start talking about their alignments in terms of D&D.
Oh,
What's
God.
weird with
Probably-
Mormonism is that the mods have control over the code as well. That's really strange.
They do.
I
It's a very.
think Nathaniel was trying to bring up a topic.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him do that.
Yeah, they've actually changed some of their code and made it not quite so white anymore. It's odd.
True. That's exactly what I'm
The-
talking about, man.
Yeah, and only they can whatever. So I had the Jehovah's Witnesses. They keep coming back to our apartment, and as much as I enjoy speaking with them, my partner said that I can't anymore, and so I had to tell them to go away. Well, they came back last week, and because I'm an honest person, and because I don't want to, upset my partner, I told them to go away. I told them I was an atheist, and then there was somebody that they don't stop talking when you tell them you're an atheist either. I don't understand that, but whatever.
Ask them to put you on the do not call list. They will, and they'll stop coming.
Oh no, I've done that twice now. So this time, the third time, I was already having a bad morning, and I think I actually tweeted about this a couple of times. So if you follow me on Twitter at Atheist Husker, feel free. I tweeted about this because they came back, and I was already having a bad morning, and the dogs were pissing me off, and that's proof that corgis can piss you off. And they had a little girl with them. She was young teen, preteen maybe. And I had enough, and I looked at her while she was at my door, and I said, "You're in a cult, and you need to get out of the cult while you still can." And then I shut the door, and she said, "Okay, I don't think it's going to work." But then I went downstairs and I asked them. I'm telling this to ask you guys a question, to get your opinion, because I went down and I asked one of the ladies that was there, and I said, "What if one of these young people tried to leave? What would you do to them? What would you do?" And I asked her in front of these young people because I know the answer. And I said, "What would you do?" And she said she was practicing her First Amendment rights. And I said, "Hey, me too," because turns out we can both do that. And I said, "Would you kick them out of the family? Would you Would you kick them out of things? Would you make it so that their life is miserable? Would you remove them from everything? Because this is part of what's dangerous about these types of cults and this part of religion. And first off, she said they don't use Google. We have the Bible. Whenever I told them to look it up, so
yes, I remember when the Bible was used to look up things about diseases and aristocracy. I remember Bibling that.
Yes, absolutely.
Sir, as it totally says in the Bible to wash your hands, therefore germ theory is in the Bible.
That's but how do we? Which one do you guys think? Thanks. Which
atheist
one
owned
do you guys think is more dangerous?
I'm a Christian now. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Do you think that Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses are more dangerous?
Well, ooh, that's a good question, Nathan.
Hey, I got it.
Yes.
So I think trying to
Mormons are pretty hard on females. I mean, so
I think trying to quantify dangerous there is almost impossible. I think
fair.
that you have to evaluate everything in there on a case by case basis, because when you're dealing with Jehovah's Witness and you're dealing with Mormonism, you're dealing with two completely not completely different, but you're dealing with two things that both have the same kind of structure. With Mormonism, the hierarchy is there. With Jehovah's Witness, the hierarchy is there, and with something like Catholicism, the hierarchy is there. It all comes down to what does that hierarchy entail, and in every single one of those, there is a level of harm that is entailed greatly by them. But the actual harm that is done, the extent of that harm, I think only can really be evaluated on a case by case. And as much as that's all sounds like a cop out answer, I think it's the honest one.
I don't know myself. I would say Mormonism might be a little more inherently dangerous.
Let me ask it. Because
Mormonism at least brought us a really good musical.
True.
I think I'd actually throw Catholicism in the ring here, just because.
I already did.
Yeah, like I'm polytheist, I'm polyamorous as well. And one of my partners, Dana, who like came in and out of the room a couple times. I don't know if you heard the door shut, but he, because he ended up joining our relationship the way that he did, his family effectively kicked him out and has disinvited him from pretty much every event that they've had together. They trash talk him constantly. They basically refuse to acknowledge he exists in anything other than the barest terms. And when his father got remarried, he was invited to the wedding, but he wasn't even allowed to speak my name. On top of that, like Catholics also, one could argue the anti-family planning stance that they have, and they were the originators of the anti-abortion rhetoric before the evangelicals like grabbed onto it. It was originally considered a Catholic issue. And they have some very heavy cult-like thematics around them, and like the near worship of a single, human being, the Pope. So like that's another one that I'd add in there.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Catholicism has caused a lot of harm too because of their stance on birth control.
And depending on what Catholics you're talking about, there's even more harm to be done there as well, because your modern day Catholics are not the same as like your Sedevacanists or your trad Caths. Those are even more harmful variants.
Yeah, the Eastern and Greek Orthodox churches and the Irish.
Ocean, I will do horrible things to you.
Well, I think the idea, and I thank you guys for making sure that the way that we ask the questions is right, because I think that all of the answers are also correct, because I think that it goes on to show that being religious doesn't make a person dangerous. Not at all. In fact, my older brother is, he's a Trump supporter, but whatever.
Evidence against your position. Got it.
I know I'm not doing well right now, and it's my fault. Again, it's my fault. It was the year 2000, and now it's just snowballing 20 years later. But being involved with this religion can lead people to do these things, and to not listen to what we would consider to be rational thought processes. And like, who doesn't want a freaking blood transfusion to survive? And yet, if you're Jehovah's Witness, it's like, we'll kick you out of the freaking church. And that's dangerous, man.
And it's not even just it's not even just that. If you get into like the NIFB, of course, we're going to have to talk about them real quick because we're talking about evidence-based medicine now.
Fair enough.
The NIFB actually have an incredibly hard stance against vaccines.
It's
like
not just
they're-
vaccines. Like, sorry, I'll let you keep going. I'll bring up the other pseudoscience later.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that it's not just that, but their stance on mental health is also really bad. They believe that things like, not only do they believe that things like ADHD and autism don't exist, they believe that if any of the signs of these things manifest in a child, the answer is beating. The
Stoning.
answer is
Illness, other kinds of mental illness also don't exist to them. They believe it's something akin to like demon possession, that these people are undergoing a spiritual battle and need to just pray really hard and that it'll go away, or just believe in Christ a little stronger and then it'll go away. It's kind of ridiculous.
Evangelical yikesianity.
Well, like that brings up the mega churches and that sort of faith healing and the grifting that comes from that.
Oh yeah, I know all about them. That's something that I have a lot of experience with.
I have ADD and I'm a pagan.
The prosperity preaching.
Guess it's
Send me all your money and you'll get more money.
remember that Peter Popoff, even though James Randi exposed him decades ago, is still making millions of dollars through prosperity ministry.
Look at
still sending out little packets of holy water.
fucking Jim Backer, right? With his little buckets of food. The motherfucker was in jail for fraud. Also Kent Hovind, but whatever.
Yeah.
Do we want to sort of like pivot away from talking about the ways in which religion, like in which these religions are being used to be harmful, and maybe start talking about, a little bit about who they target? Because I think that that's part of where the harm comes from. Particularly like those prosperity ministries very heavily prey on the poor, they prey on the sick. And when you talk about like Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses in particular actually encourage their membership not to get a higher education, you know, and to instead like either go into trades or become like, you know, window washers and stuff so that they can eventually go out and like
build churches.
Oh god.
Which I believe they call it, I think they call it like pioneering.
There's
No offense though, window washers make killer money.
Whoa.
There's examples there's examples of these prosperity people like targeting these poor people. Well, first, of course, they encourage these people to end up like giving up all of their money, and they've actually forced a lot of people into bankruptcy. Like you could just Google search it right now, and I'm pretty sure it'll bring up examples. I know I've read about it in one of the James Randi books I read when I was a teenager. But
And part of the reason I brought that up is because you could argue that mentally ill people are more victims of religion than they are the perpetrators of violence when it comes to this sort of thing.
Yeah, or just people that aren't savvy, you know, that
there's
people like Jonathan Cragen, for instance, he has autism, and there's research out there that shows that people that are on the spectrum are more easily susceptible to something called undue influence, which means that
I'm sorry, I was going to say just after you're done, we're getting a request from chat. We wanted to hear this one guy. The chat wants to hear this one guy's point, like argument on that.
But like I was saying, like they seem to be more susceptible to undue influence. And in the case of Jonathan Cragen, for instance, it wasn't just the NIFB that got to him. He also got entangled in extremely far-right ideology. I have a video of his where he calls the KKK, and he's extremely excited about it. It's these extremes on the far right and within religious fundamentalism know how to prey on people with mental illness, and it's sick.
All right, I'll let this one guy go, and then Nathaniel, you look like you wanted to speak up, so I'll let you go after that.
I have to say, I think people who are vulnerable are just vulnerable in anything in general, and yet some people can use that vulnerability in religion to, you know, prey onto others, and it's more than likely than true that it happens. And again, it might be that the person who's being influenced isn't necessarily under the impression that they're being influenced in that way. That they're a pawn essentially in this organization. I don't want to say religion. I'd rather say the organization, depending on what organization it is, because I believe at the end of the day, whatever establishment that's what, you know, makes the organization, they just want to make more profit for their church or whatever.
That's what I was trying to
Depending
be
on
specific.
yeah,
to
you know, because
denominate.
it all depends on their you're fine on their what their end goal is for this person in the organization. Like what's their purpose? What are they going to send Amma to do? I wanted to piggyback on what the dude said about people coming to doors with the Jehovah's Witness, and I have a Baptist guy who comes by my neighborhood the same time, and you know, they knock on our door, and I'm like, no, we're not interested in your Baptist church. They come from a state away, an hour away from Indiana to Illinois just to get people to go to their church. Like, oh yeah, you know, we have buses, come pick us up. Like, why do churches do that with these people? Like, another thing, why are you going out of state to get these people in to your church? What's wrong with your own state? So you get these line crosses where they go into what's the word, the ghettos, I guess. That's you know, ghettos or whatever, because I live in the ghetto. They go in the ghettos and they go to these people because they're like, oh, these people are down and lowly, they need God, you know. They think less
that
of
happens that happens where you are as well, because I like I said, I grew up in Pensacola in PCA, and one of the things that PCA did, they had a specific subset for their ministry that would go to the low income areas, and it just so happened that even though I went to PCA,
low income areas, thank you, yeah, that's what I meant to
That
say.
reminds me.
let me finish real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, let me finish real quick. So not only did they go into low income areas, but it was weird for me because I saw people that I recognized as ministers from my school coming into my neighborhood, because I grew up in the ghetto. I was like the one white kid in a sea of people who were not white. Like I was the minority in my area. So when so for me, it was just kind of a matter of reality to me that, okay, well, I live in a low income area, and that means that I'm going to be a bit different than everybody around me, because PCA is a private school, so most people there had money. But then when I saw the people from my private school coming to my low income area, and I'm like, everybody on this street is a Christian. Why are you guys? I don't know a single non-Christian on my street. Why are you guys here?
Yeah, they just come and they just come to, like I said, the low income areas, and it's like, why do this? Why not? What's wrong with the neighborhood next door? You know,
it's almost like the whole "you're never a prophet in your own hometown."
Yeah, it's like they come. I know why they do it. They come in because they want the poor to give something back, or because everyone's around there helping out with the community. So they use that mentality and they take it from that. Hey, everyone's gonna help out. You're helping when you help out your church. You're helping out the community, and that's one of I think the biggest things that they draw people in. You know, is the fact of they use the ploy. And I hate saying it because, again, I'm painting in a bad light, and I'm always thinking negative. So this is just what comes out naturally, is that they're using this as a ploy just to benefit the church. And whatever, like you see with like other organizations, only 10% actually goes to like a certain cause or something like that. But the rest is kept so pockets get lined and filled so preacher can have a nice car or whatever, so on and so forth.
All right. So, Cyrus, I had a quick question for you.
Sure.
You said that the Pensacola Academy that you went to, I'm probably just got the name wrong, whatever. Did they practice soul winning?
So they never called it. So they never called it soul winning when I was there, as far as I remember. But also bear in mind that this was the school that was my elementary school. So this is all formative year stuff. The things I do remember about practice there, was that the way we were taught the young earth theory was, memory serves, it was by them telling us the history of the genealogy, and that's how they got us to young earth creationism really early on, and that was covered like super early, but we were never taught to go out and win souls. The closest thing we had was selling chocolate bars and then letting people know that we were affiliated with Pensacola Christian Academy, but that's not necessarily the same thing. It was almost just exclusively the adults that participated in anything that could be considered soul winning, but I don't remember that term being used specifically where I was.
The reason why I asked that is because the old IFB is known for their soul winning as well, but it seemed to taper off in importance as the years have gone by, and that's one of the griefs that Steven Anderson seems to have with the old IFB. When it comes to soul winning, though, since we are on the topic of people proselytizing house to house, I noticed with the new IFB, the reason why they seek out low-income people is because they know that they're desperate. Yes. And they believe that, or this isn't something that they'll outright say, I don't think, but they know that if they can hook these people and give them some sort of hope, that they could easily recruit them into their movement. And that could be one of the reasons why we see an upwards of like 300 people at Stephen Anderson's church. And it's very predatory in nature. I'm not sure if this is something that is also prevalent within the Mormon and Jehovah's Witnesses camps. I've noticed at
It's
least
definitely prevalent among Catholics. Like, Catholics are well known for their ministries in particularly low-income countries. Like, they'll go to developing nations and they'll convert large swaths of people and offer them resources and things and put it all through the church. I do want to give Nathaniel a chance to speak, though, because he's been cut off several times.
Sure.
Oh, I didn't. That's okay. I didn't really.
Yeah, I went across.
No, AR, you actually said something that I was going to say. They specifically target those who are low income because of desperation. I was speaking with somebody in the chat. I don't know who it was, but first off, they said that they prey on stupidity. No, that's not it. And then they said they prey on people who aren't very well learned, and also, and I think that's what he said. And I'm like, that's not it either. They prey on people who are desperate because there's this idea of, and this is the reason I hate it so much, because rich people are prey. This is why if you ever like things with like people go like to sell like Kirby vacuums or whatever, if you looked at, you can like YouTube that stuff, they'll never go into rich neighborhoods. They'll go into poor neighborhoods because poor neighborhoods are neighborhoods that are more likely to actually be desperate for. Say again.
I did Kirby for a little while, and they did the exact opposite. We went to
really
very rich areas, and the reason why we did that is because they called them quality people, and due to the
that's
rhetoric,
racist.
Yeah, due to that rhetoric, I hightailed the fuck out of there because I didn't like it.
Wow, that's like the opposite of like the Kirby model. This goes into like low income neighborhoods because they said those are the people that are most desperate to try and get something very nice that's going to last a very long time and that aren't going to care as much about money. And it's the same thing with this type of, you mentioned the predatory behavior with the people like Kenneth Copeland and the Peter Popovs and everybody that's on TBN and all that nonsense, literally sitting in actual like gold chairs and stuff.
Remember that a little bit of history for Peter Popoff. Remember that his ministry, after the James Randi scandal and after he lost most of his white evangelical audience, what was the first network? What was the first freaking network that he went to afterwards? BET? He went to BET. Yep. He went to BET.
Yep.
And started targeting that area because we know from socioeconomic data that predominantly black areas happen to also be more poor and by that nature also more vulnerable.
Yes.
And that is immediately where Peter Popoff went to as soon as he lost the ability to take his white evangelical audience. And I find that disgusting.
Yeah.
Real quick. I'm sorry, Nathan, and you can continue. I just want to say, because I said I was cutting it off in 3 minutes. I know that like where the conversation is going, the chat is wanting Ocean to kind of bring something up. I think that's similar. So I'm saying that we can go as long as we need to. I do have to cut it off by 12 o'clock, but it's a democracy and mod is God.
Well, we can go for a little bit longer, but
I just wanted to
comment. You guys want to say no more than like 10 or 20 minutes more? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on what something Nathaniel said and kind of add, because you said desperate people, and I think like a subset of those desperate people, I think a lot of religions kind of prey on lonely people too, that end up going to church for like the fellowship and just, to have contact with other human beings.
I think that plays into a little bit of what people want me to talk about. That there is an element of asatru and heathenry that has a white power sort of element to it, and we refer to as folkists. And it has a very similar pipeline into it that, and Suris can speak to this, that the alt-right pipeline has.
The Golden One is one of those, isn't he?
He is weird. I don't really, I would term him as a folkist. I just don't know if I would call him a heathen, though, because I don't, he's got a really strange, once you start trying to go down and define what he believes, it's a mess.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you. I'm just saying, in terms of what he identifies himself as, he calls himself one.
Does he call himself a folkist?
Oh God,
he calls himself a heathen.
Okay, all right. So if he calls himself a heathen, then fine. That's weird because that's like the term that the racist ones tend to distance themselves from. Even the terms that are usually used by the racist crowd are Asatru and Odinist. Now, Asatru is one that can be used by non-racists and racists alike. And same with heathen, apparently. But Odinist, with few exceptions, is fairly universally white supremacist types. Now, what they tend to do is they'll prey on people that feel that they've been wronged somehow. And it's a similar pipeline for the alt-right where, like, say their job was stolen by an immigrant, or it was a lot of these other ways that people wind up justifying their journey down this path, or that they're even as a response to Christianity, when there's some anti-Semitism that pops up when they start talking about how Christianity is really just Judaism controlling Europe, and it's another kind of argument that they'll use. But they'll go after people that are low income and lonely, and suck them into this ideology that winds up putting them into this extremist sort of position, and it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably one of the most disgusting things out there, is just the fact that there's people out there preying on people like that. And it annoys me. It kind of makes me glad that when I joined Christianity that I didn't go into a church, and I knew this because I'm like, people will use people and abuse them. So the best form of Christianity, the way I saw it, is to completely do it by myself, get my own thoughts, and then,
I've had that conversation with other heathens as well. It's like, what is the value of doing an org? What is the value of practicing independently? And I think that there's value to doing an org because you can provide a good example of how to practice. Problem with doing an org is you have to manage an org.
Is all about, like the organization that I'm a part of.
Mhm.
Like, we don't proselytize at all, but one of the purposes of the organization, we're very big tent, and so we're kind of unpopular in the more conservative portions of Hellenism. The organization that I was calling out earlier doesn't like us, and neither does one of the other ones in Greece. Because both of them are exclusivity traditions. But like the whole purpose of our organization is, if you feel a call to the Greek gods, we want to be there to help you figure out what the best way for you to practice is going to be, and to help you discover that for yourself, because we believe in individual relationships with the gods.
Yeah, and I think that, like, the weird thing about the racism bent in like folkism and its relationship with heathenry doesn't have very good justification, even when you look at it as an internal critique. And looking at it from an external position is just it's even worse. But you do get like that shows up where you get people that try to justify their racism by using Norse polytheism as their window dressing to cover up for it.
Almost as if by saying that, well, look, most of the Vikings were white. That means that I get to do this. And it's like, well, so are you telling me that gods who don't have a limiting factor based on race now can only help people based on their race, and that they look favorably on people based on race, which is something
it limits the gods' actions on the basis of people's genetics. There's another element of that where you talk about like the whiteness of Vikings or whatever. They were raiding the shit out of the British, which most people consider white, and trading peacefully with Muslims, which a lot of people consider to be not white. So
like I have deep fundamental problems with that just from personal experience, because most white supremacists that I've met, and I have met a lot growing up in North Carolina, have been Christian. So sure, like any community are going to have their bad apples, right? Like I can name one right now, a pagan right now, that I would consider to be white supremacist. He is not the voice of his community. He is.
Which one are you thinking? Is this somebody I know?
Yes, it is.
Who is it?
I wanted to throw something out there.
Wait 1 second. We're in the middle of something.
Hold on.
I would consider Von Helton, from my experience.
We're on the same page. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Von Helton was no. He's a shit pagan.
Van
Yeah,
Houten,
every
think he
community has
is?
their bad apples. The vast majority of white supremacists
I don't know Van
I
Houten all
have
that
met,
much.
alt-right, I mean, I have met a lot of them. They have been Christian. Period.
I've met a few atheists, but
Yes, and
they're-
I actually did a Crazy Cults on a segment of atheism in the alt-right.
Well, we actually
yeah.
talked a lot about that. Like the term skeptic has been heavily like misappropriated by the alt-right, which is part of the reason why people who aren't as familiar with Surus's content have sometimes given him flack for calling himself a skeptic.
Meanwhile, whenever I make a claim on my channel, I'm just like, hey, can you look in the description real quick? Because, like, I call myself Surus the Skeptic for a very good fucking reason. All of my sources are in the description. When somebody's like, how can you call yourself a skeptic when you have exposition on gender theory? And I'm like, because I actually researched it, unlike you
Yeah.
moron.
Like,
Yeah,
and I would
like,
like,
we've
I would
got- I've
to
gotten
say
into this
my blanket
conversation
statements
before.
doesn't come from research. That just comes from personal experience, and I just want to reiterate that.
I consider myself a skeptic, and I'm a polytheist, and that pisses off some people.
Well,
Yeah.
I was AFK for. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go on.
No,
You can go ahead and speak, John. You haven't gotten to talk for quite a while, and then like I wanted to give Nathaniel and this one guy another chance to talk.
Well, and what I had to say is just sheer nonsense anyway. But I was AFK for a minute, and I heard you guys talking about Von Helton, and I just wanted to ask Ocean and Ashley. I mean, how much does it suck that he's also a pagan?
I mean, I'd imagine it sucks just about as much as a mass murderer being an atheist or a Christian for anybody in those.
Well,
groups.
yeah.
I mean, I
yeah.
think it's a great possibility that Von Helton has and always been a fucking Poe. I mean, I'm just putting that shit out there. Like, who fucking knows what that atrocious human being really is?
I don't even consider him an example of paganism at all.
Well, no, I mean, because
I've had like 4 or 5 exchanges with the guy, John, and I swear to God, they were some of the worst. I mean, I swear to a God I don't believe in, that they were some of the fucking worst shits of my life, you know?
I mean, the thing of it is like not every person of every group, you know, is going to be the same, and there's bad people in all groups, yada yada. But it just doesn't even compute in my head that like there's Ashley, there's Ocean, and then what, this guy over here, like.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think part of it too, Ocean and I were talking at length about this. There's a large segment of the polytheistic community, or I wouldn't even call it a large segment. There's a significant enough segment of the polytheistic community for this to be a problem that is anti-vax and anti-science and believes a lot of woo and doesn't think very critically about things.
Absolutely.
Like, we talk about how Reconstructionists in general, and this is a very, very broad brush, like, we talked about how we have a tendency to be a bit more critically thinking, but there are large segments of the pagan community that aren't so much.
Well,
So, like,
let me-
that's a problem that we're both concerned about more than, say, one particularly vocal pagan who happens to grab the spotlight sometimes.
Well, and so when the two of you talk about religion being dangerous, you both acknowledge that there are segments of your own religious beliefs that are those people are dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why I was calling out. That's why I was calling out an organization. The one that I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
we're like I was talking about Focus, and she's talking about the extremist, like nationalist Hellenists and stuff. Like, yeah, there's
Yeah, there's
definitely people use religion to justify religious justification. The thing that I would hold about polytheism is that we do not have a situation that is inherently a problem like Abrahamic faiths do with respect to hell and sin. Or at least their version of sin, especially original sin, that winds up permeating the entire religion and making it so that these kind of things are almost required in order to hold the faith.
Well,
Now,
your
with
guy-
polytheists, we don't have that situation, but that doesn't mean that you can't have people that are assholes and dangerous about it.
Well,
Remember,
right, your guys' religious beliefs don't permeate culture as much as the other religions do.
No,
too.
but they have in the past, and it wasn't this kind of issue.
Yeah, like I was totally gonna bring up this with Ocean in private, but like I'm very interested in progression of Norse mythology because yes, like my people, the Native Americans, had a lot of fear of Vikings, and every single Viking I have met to this date have been somewhat humanistic and on the same level as me politically, and really wants to fight for like equality of humanity. So like I wanted to have this conversation with Ocean, but. That's for the future.
remember that for every me, TRA, and atheist rationale, there's also a Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bullshit.
Or no? Wait, is no bullshit actually an atheist?
He
And-
has come out against some Christian positions before, so I'm assuming he is. I don't know if he ever outright said it though.
I would like to take this moment and read the super chat from Agnostic Pagan Mother. Absolutely love her. She's been watching me for a while. $5. Thank you, Ocean. I'm lagging because I keep pausing at work, but thank you. This isn't brought up enough. It's getting bad, and it frightens me in Washington State.
Yeah, Washington
I-
State. That's actually a big issue over there. Washington,
I was
Oregon.
about to say I
Yeah,
completely
Oregon.
like we've had marches and stuff from people that claim to be those things. We've also had problems with certain like people in like the Aquarian Tabernacle and a couple of other organizations up here that like started trying to radicalize people. They've been purged primarily, but like there's some problems. Like we have a large segment of we have a large population of polytheists up here, and there's a lot more support for it, so you see a lot more of the bad apples.
You have like groups never mind.
We have in the South. We have some that are Confederate revivalists and heathen.
Yeah,
Just
we've got the
wrap your head
Proud
around that. Is that's got all kinds of cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah.
Because
I'm proud of my Southern heritage. Okay, what
a
about your
minute.
Southern heritage are you
sir-
proud about?
Cyrus, you just volunteered for the Merle, Earl, Cyrus, and special guest episode that I'm trying to figure out how to do.
Wait,
You need
wait a minute.
Wait.
Yeah,
Wait, am I gonna be Merle, like Merle from The Walking Dead?
It is now officially me, you, and Jim Majors, and a special guest I'm not going to name, although I did name it in a stream last week. And if you want to find out who that is, you got to watch the whole thing. So that's in the
Yeah.
future once I figure out collaborations and shit.
Hey, Cyrus, Jim Majors is Merle. You're going to have to come up with your own Earl ending name.
Yeah,
All
we're
right,
doing some
that's
southern
fine.
shit, Cyrus.
I can
We're
do
gonna
an
some
Earl.
Cyrus. We're gonna do some southern shit.
I can do an
Maybe-
Earl. That's fine.
Maybe you could be Pearl.
I'm too much of a
Oh,
Steven
Pearl.
Universe. Okay, I'm not going to take
I have
Pearl.
opinions.
I'm not going to take Pearl for a few reasons. One,
know.
I'm a huge Steven Universe fan, and Pearl is unequivocally, if you've watched Steven Universe, Pearl is unequivocally a child groomer. She grooms children for military
Okay.
combat. So no, I'm not going to take Pearl because I actually hold issue with the character Pearl.
Okay, I was just gonna say,
God,
like,
you're
you
right.
could totally turn your
I never
necklace
thought
into
about it that
pearls.
The whole song, Atheist Rationale, the whole song, Do It For Her, Do It For Him, is literally her grooming Connie
It
to
is.
fight and die for Steven.
Oh, I think we got a future Cyrus episode brewing right here, right now. On the
The
Raging
whole
Atheist.
song is about
They
child
don't love that
grooming.
I
So-
have another.
100%.
I have another episode that I'm supposed to sometime in the near future have the Griffiths wanted to do a stream about Norse mythology. So,
So, I did want to come back to one other thing that we were kind of like, Ocean was starting to get into the exclusivity traditions, and that sort of being a major problem. And I think that that's where a lot of this stems from the pagan community. But I also think that exclusivity, that sort of hell belief that we've been talking about earlier, like, is part of what makes the Christian sects as harmful as they are. And I think that almost any religion that begins that exclusivity tradition will ultimately result in at least some small portion of them becoming radicalized in that way.
It's heathenry
Yeah,
has a little bit of it with respect to Innengard and Uthengard, which are terms that are really complicated. I don't want to get into explaining them right now, but it essentially is inner yard and outer yard, and if you're outer yard, then you're an other. And a lot of people will use that structure in order to be like, everybody that's within my personal group is Innengard, and those people over there that are this other race or whatever are Uthengard now. And which is not how it was used historically, but they use it as a dividing line, ignoring all the subtlety in the concept and applying it in a way that is either like racist or nationalist. And that's definitely one of those things that winds up turning something that started out as something very subtle and interesting into an exclusivity
Wait,
tradition.
isn't that version of Udengard literally just saying I spit on all forms of Griff?
Yes.
That's
So it doesn't
aggravating.
work within the.
Yeah, I would say that fucking Griff has no functionality under an Udengard principle.
Under that one, yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
closest that you get to that in Hellenism is like Tartarus, Elysium, and Hades. But the problem is that the vast majority of everybody goes to Hades. Like Elysium is pretty much for like heroes and really, really amazing people. Like you get in there through your works, and Tartarus is for like the worst of the worst.
I think the closest you get into it in Hellenism, if you include the Roman idea, is a certain character who would conclude his speeches with, "In conclusion, Carthage must be destroyed."
Yeah, but you know, most Hellenists don't generally include the Roman stuff, or at least not the ones
But
I interact with.
you do get people that are like Cato enthusiasts that pop up both in CDR and in the alt-right. And it's like that's where you get a lot of problems that stem from like one element of classical literature that was very othering.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that some people are starting to become more exclusive in the Greek traditions, given that the concept of like race was significantly less important to the Greeks than A, whether or not you spoke their language, and B, whether or not you were a Greek citizen.
Bar.
Whereas, like, when you get into Rome, in Rome, they basically just recognize that, well, you're either a Roman or you're a barbarian.
All right. Also, I apologize for the chat. You just heard about 20 pagan inside jokes.
I've been scheduling Thursday show, so y'all go ahead.
So yeah, I was just gonna say, is anybody else like me highly interested in what they're talking about, but completely lost?
Oh, like bar and Griff and all that stuff.
Yes.
Something I've been wanting to bring up, but I don't know if it's like relevant anymore, because we were talking about how like there is some racism prevalent in like pagan communities, right? There seems to be like another concept in Christianity that people have used to justify racism, and that's the mark of Cain.
I'm sorry. I also just realized that on that note, this one guy was trying to say something before we jumped into the whole pagan conversation. So I'd love to pass the talking pillow to him.
It's okay.
I don't even remember what it was, to be honest. The only thing that caught me is like, what do you think there's the correlation between like Tartarus and Hades, because that's also, you know, with the Greek and the Christianity, they use those the exact same terms too. So that's like a weird thing that I find is that they use those terms as well in the writing. It's connected with Sheol and all that, and it has the same concept of Sheol, like kind of like what you kind of just said.
Isn't that mainly
with the Hades and all?
Isn't that mainly though just because as Christendom moved out of just centralized Judea, and as it moved into like where Greek was the common language, a lot like how Rome would take Christianity and then go, okay, well, we need to make sure that the polytheists understand that Christianity works a certain way, so saints are like deities with this level of worship. It's a lot like that, where like different aspects of the two religions kind of get merged because of the cultural modifiers. I think that's where that comes from.
You get some of that a little bit. The Greek mixing of Egypt too, like Hermes Trismegistus and such. You know, the various gods getting additional epithets that were tacked on because of their interaction with the Egyptian ones.
I was gonna say there's something like that, but there's mostly pertaining to the afterlife and like the underworld that's mentioned again in like Enoch as well, and like that kind of specific order of there's 3 different sections, and I noticed there's some type of common stuff with that there's always 3 places for an afterlife, whether it's either being good, being bad, or being very, very good, or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's because in your Judaic mythology, there were 3 different levels of hell, or 3 different levels of heaven, and so the gods and the angels all lived in the like the 3rd level of heaven. That's where Paul supposedly went, and that's where Moses is apparently, and also Elijah. And that's very, very Greek as well. It's like Judaic and Greek mixed together. That's why Paul wrote it that way.
Again, all of that was highly. No, I was just going to say all of that was highly interesting, but my only takeaway was that I want to ask Ocean why it's a talking pillow now instead of a talking stick.
That's a Breaking Bad reference.
Oh, I watched all that too, and I didn't get it.
By the way, Nathaniel, are you over there cleaning a fossil?
Yeah.
That's what he do.
Yeah, I do that. That's what I do. This is a Cretaceous arthropod. I have an Exogyra if you want one. So if you want one, this is Cretaceous. If you want that, actually, yeah, if you want one.
I'm more interested in like the Devonian and the Cambrian. Like when I started college, that was my major. I wanted to like specifically work at the Burgess Jail and such.
I find this incredibly incredulous. Okay, I'm gonna do myself.
Oh shit!
Not Ocean, stop. No punish for you.
Actually, that's so. Here is
They call me the Punisher.
Salicine.
Okay, Vaughn.
Salicine.
I'm gonna punt Ocean.
Pleistocene.
I love this whole new format. I can actually interact with the chat. This has been great.
Cretaceous.
So do we want to kind of come to closing statements and stuff? Because I originally said we would probably only go for like another 20 minutes, and that was
It's been about
approximately
25.
20 minutes
Yeah,
ago.
I'm good with that. I think this has been a great conversation. I want to say thank you, everyone. I think that this has been informative. It's been fun. We've had moments of laughter and a few moments of heat, but it's been structured. And Ashley, you have done a great job. I just want to say that straight up.
Yeah, props to Ashley, definitely.
Yeah.
Props to Ashley, thank you, the Raging Atheist, as well, for hosting all that good stuff, having all of us wonderful people on.
And this one, I hope that you
Thank
felt
you.
that you got to speak enough, because I know you kind of came in at the end.
I hardly ever speak.
This
He's
one
got-
guy,
he's
we
got
have
tag on.
issues, but he knows I have love for him, and he is a genuine human being. And he's wrong and he's right, and sometimes I want to smack a bitch, but I love the
Me too. I even named my little kitty after you, so come on.
guy.
He learns and he grows. He's apologized for stuff.
All
Hi.
right. So, since we're doing that, do we want to come to closing statements and everybody can talk about where you can be found on YouTube and such? Are we ready to go there, or does anybody else have another thing they want to talk
Everybody go first. I'll go last.
about? If we want to go in the same order we opened with, we could do John then Nathaniel, or Nathaniel then John. It doesn't really matter to me.
Sounds good.
He's
Okay,
giving
John,
he's giving the chop my head off sign.
Advocating violence. No, you shall be banned. All
Go
right.
for it, John. What's up, man?
Chop your head off.
Anyway, so on Saturdays evenings, I do a stream on the GDC, topic-based panel discussion. This week we're doing potluck profundity. Everybody can bring a topic. If anybody's interested in taking part in that, shoot me a message on Twitter. And I also started a new channel this past weekend called the Amateur Conversationalist, where I'm going to have one-on-one conversations and bring two people on at a time that might be at odds with one another and moderate a discussion between them. And I'm hoping to kick that part of it off sometime in the next week or so. That's it. Oh, and thanks to Raging Atheist for having me on. I picked up 2 more subs during his stream, and I did a little math, and the Raging Atheist is now responsible for 16% of my subs.
No, that's all you, John. That's all you being you, man.
But no, hey, thank you. Thanks, Raging.
I'm just going to go ahead and say right now that I would not actually trust the Raging Atheist with 16% of my subs. I'm just kidding.
Neither would I. I'm just saying.
I'm hoping that everybody caught the mild subtext there.
That it was definitely caught. Nathaniel, are you too busy with your fossil there, or do you want to say your closing statements?
Yeah, okay, I'm good. So here's a Holopia. This is from the either Ordovician or Devonian. So there you go. It's one of those. Because it is igneous, I do have to get it tested, but it's from either the Ordovician or the Devonian. It is. It's actually Susan's. I was yelling at her. I think she might be asleep. It's just like, come get your fossil. I want to show it off. But that's from either.
Do you know the country of origin?
I had a sandwich with jalapenos on it, and it was really spicy.
What did you say, Ashley?
I said, do you know the country of origin?
Yeah, this is from North Central Texas. It's from the old. It's from the rock bed that was uplifted underneath the upper Cretaceous in Ladonia, Texas. Every single fossil that I have is it's mine. I found it myself.
AR, I can explain it after stream if you want.
Cool.
Wait, what? What do you?
Oh, he said in the chat that he didn't get the subject. Anyway, I'll let you do your closing statements.
Don't worry, AR. The adult chat will happen after hours.
Yeah,
Great.
but I did.
The after streams
We're gonna get out
are
the cigars and
always
brandy.
better. I always say, like, if you come to the after stream, record that shit. I give you permission now.
Oh,
But But so you can also, here's a tooth, by the way, if you want. This is from the Pleistocene. So if you want
Ooh,
to,
that's badass.
yeah,
That's pretty.
that's a little mammal thing. Found that's from South.
I'll have to show off my collection.
For
I've got
anybody,
enough beds that happened when the hotspot, the Yellowstone hotspot, crossed over the fault line where the North American plate is colliding with the remnants of, I'm trying to remember what the name of the plate is, but anyway, the Cascade Range sort of passed over the Yellowstone hotspot passed over it at one point, and it just spewed ashes everywhere all over the state, and there are beds just along the highways, and I have tons and tons and tons of like mostly carbon print fossils, but tons of them.
You need to come with me to Northeast Nebraska to Ashfall Fossil Beds.
I worked there when I was in high school.
So if anybody doesn't already follow Nathaniel's Periscope, he literally no seriously, he literally just like yells at people about politics and religion while cleaning off fossils.
I absolutely adore Nathaniel's his Twitter stream is one of my favorites.
Oh,
Nathaniel, I feel like you and I need to get to know each other now, because like paleontology geek man.
if you
I was
work
there for his
Wait,
Sorry.
no, I want to hear what Nathaniel has to say.
if you
Yeah,
worked
that's
if you
what I
worked if you worked at Ashfall Fossil Beds near Orchard, Nebraska, that's where I grew up. So
Yeah, I lived in Omaha for 2 years, and like when we were graduating, we had to do a internship type thing, like an apprenticeship for a month in order to graduate from my high school, and so I ended up getting set up by UNL to go work there, and we had to leave the fossils in the ground, like that was the rule that they had. But after I did my 1-day job shadow, I ended up getting to work there for a month over the summer in order to get that graduation.
I know all
I
about
thought
UNL.
It's definitely the case, fourth dimensional, Jake. Anyway, I need to get back onto focus,
Yes.
even though I'm a
Real-
new friend.
Real quick, I'm just going to say that being fossilized is the best way to get stoned.
Jesus.
I am kind of fossilized right now.
AR, you said, because I'm gonna shout myself out in a second, but AR, you said something that about my channel or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Periscope that you had after those Trump tweets came out was glorious, and it was fun. Like going after the Nazis in your chat with you. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, if you want to come in and see like actual Nazis, which my father is one of them, by the way. If you want to come in and see like actual racists and Nazis, come try to troll me. You can come to my Periscope and watch it.
Nathaniel, I had real Nazis try to almost get the Raging Atheist taken down from YouTube. I mean, they almost won.
Hey,
Yeah.
Nathaniel, I also want to say I was already subbed to your channel, and during the stream here, I followed you on Twitter.
Thanks very much. And that is, by the way, Susan and I, my partner, we have a show. It's supposed to be twice a week, but because of a lot of the politics stuff that's been going on recently by myself and stuff, we have been on a bit of a hiatus. We plan on coming out tomorrow night, so that's gonna be really awesome. It's 7:30 Central. It's Divine Disbelief, and we talk about the news, especially how it affects the secular community. And you can find us there. We're on Facebook as well. She runs the Facebook thing. We also do a lot of protests in DFW. So we're like number one bigot protest people in DFW, and we're really we met at a protest. So, and you can also follow me and my Texas House District campaign on Twitter at Walters for Texas. So.
All right, Ocean's turn up next, and Nathaniel, if you're on Discord, we totally have to swap like stuff afterwards.
As for me, I guess this has been a really awesome stream, and thanks Rage for holding it, and Ashley, you've been a fantastic mod. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As I don't really have very much as far as closing statements. I feel like I expressed ideas and all that jazz, so this has been really good. But as far as like where to find me, I'm Ocean Keltoy on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and I'll probably be doing a Twitch stream after this, where I'm going to be going on a journey in Destiny, and I can yap with you guys in the chat. So I'm finally figuring out streaming. So
are you done playing Pokemon on stream?
I will play Pokemon again on stream, but tonight my roommate wants to go hunting for a gun called the Bad Juju with me on Destiny. So
fair enough. I've been playing Ocarina of Time this entire time.
I know. I've been
Cirrus, that is my favorite fucking video game of all time. I love that story. I wrote it into a movie once.
It's the greatest video game of all time.
I had one thing, Rogue. I'm so sorry. I'm an anti-theist. I think the world would be better without religion. That just
Uh-oh.
so
Uh-oh.
and-
We need to have a
You need to
conversation
throw
with
that in
you,
at the end of
Ocean, and anybody else about anti-superstition. I like that term.
Yeah, it's Nathaniel, have you seen my most recent video?
I think that I admitted earlier that I haven't had time to watch
Yeah.
anything
Oh,
recently.
watch it. Watch it.
Actually, you know what? Just give it a spin and shoot me a DM on Twitter afterwards. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, actually.
I will.
It
Damn, I
is so
forgot to-
good. Anybody in the chat, if you have not watched Ocean's newest video, please. I mean, and everybody's links are in the description below, except for Ashley. If you have a link for me to put in the description below, please give it to me.
And if
Can
you're
I link
watching,
that, can I
and
link
if-
that into the chat?
on-
Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
please do. Please do.
Okay.
It was
While you
a
guys are-
great video. I thoroughly, really love that video, Ocean.
I'm so
I
glad you
love
guys
it.
brought
Appreciate it,
this up. I'm glad you guys brought this up again because I had that in my notifications, and I remember now when I got it, I cast it to my TV like 4 or 5 videos, and his was in there, and then I got called away, and I never did watch it. I got to watch that.
It is so good, man. I mean, I think most of Ocean's videos, and Ocean knows I like watch every single one of his videos. I'm a fanboy, but I'm just saying that this video is really good. I mean, it kind of answers a question that I've had and me and Ocean has talked about, and it is helping me along. And I just recommend everybody watch it.
a couple things. One, we were mentioning links. So the link to the Raging Atheist channel is in the description of my video. So if you're watching on the Ocarina of Time stream and you want to know like where this conversation is taking place and who to sub to, Nagasuchi's link is in there. Secondly, on the topic of anti-theism, Nathaniel, have you actually seen the Hammered Out episode with Nicholas Suter that happened recently?
No, I saw it, but I haven't. I'll be honest with you. I have watched 3.
Yeah, you've been working, man.
Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, folks.
Yeah, it's busy on YouTube's. It's busy.
There's
3.
also from last week. There's an anti-theism panel that TRA did that I was on, and that one of the people that contributed to Services panel was on as well. Nicholas was on it.
Cool. Yeah, I have to look at that and see. But I've watched
Yeah.
three videos recently, all 3 of them from Rooster Teeth Let's Play. So I was eating ice. I can't.
You're taking candy breaks, like
It's-
essentially, because
yeah.
you've been working.
Nathaniel-
You've been working crazy, man.
And I always encourage be you, but be open.
Yeah, I am. Oh, if you want to piss people on atheist Twitter off, tell them you're agnostic atheist.
Oh my, don't! Oh my fucking god! Oh my fucking god!
He just
Did Surus go Super Saiyan?
I'm getting
Oh, Nathaniel,
Getting heated.
man! Oh,
Getting
that is
heated.
like that. That is
See, that's why I'm
my
like
sore
Steve
point.
McRae
man. I
block.
get it. So
I get to
much.
avoid all that drama.
I'm just the monitor.
All right. It is.
Daniel,
it
we're
is
gonna have to sit
Turk's
down and talk
turn.
about what the definition of atheism is. That is
Oh,
one of the
man.
most pressing concerns of our time.
This is why I love
You know, people
Nathaniel,
talk about-
man.
people
I mean,
talk about, like-
Nathaniel is
like-
just he is the shit.
People talk about like
Oh.
the rise of white supremacy, like partisan in politics and global warming and the no definition of atheism, man. We have
Look,
to
the
discuss
defini-
it and we
the
have to
definition-
settle it.
Well, the definition of atheism is going to be an unsettled issue in perpetuity.
And no controversy. I'm just sorry.
Damn
I'm
it.
sorry, but no controversy. Steve McRae is not invited to that conversation. I'm
You
not
don't
having
have-
that conversation with Steve,
You don't
but
have
I'll
to have
have
that
it with other
conversation.
people.
Naka, having that
Sir-
conversation with me is exactly the same as having that with Steve because we have the same position.
I know,
And-
and
and
Ocean
I have the
told me
same
mine
posi- I have
was
the same
exactly
position
the
that
same
Cyrus
position
does.
as Steve, but the way Steve says it's gonna piss me off.
I mean,
Fair
you are
enough.
a raging atheist. Might as well give the viewers what they paid for. All right, Cyrus, like you were doing your closing statements, and I wanted to get
I've said
TIR
this
too.
to Steve. Sorry.
We have gone so far over,
A little bit. It's fun though.
and Raging said
We
he's
need
got to
to
be.
settle the definition of atheism. I'm telling you guys, we have to settle it.
Okay, you know what? We haven't decided the subject for the next panel. Let's throw that in the ring. We'll talk about it after the
Oh
stream.
no! Don't do it! Don't
So the
actually do it!
Thursday
efficacy-
nice Antifa, but yes, actually, yes, we're gonna do this. And Ocean, you're welcome. And the only person not welcome is Steve McRae. Because
Wait, so can the next panel be the efficacy of philosophy in everyday life?
Oh God.
I'm gonna get some people upset.
I'm just like I know I agree with Steve, but I know I'm gonna get mad.
Can we do a panel on like basic like price equation as it comes to mutagenics in allele frequencies?
I'm open to panels on everything, but during that one, Nathan, I will be like really quiet and really stoned.
Oh, you basically have to be because it's calculus.
If I could get my brother onto this damn shit, like he would crush that. But like he ain't ever gonna do that.
Oh, is he scared of cameras?
He is scared of me, I think. I'm just
I don't know if the layman's approach would work with that one.
I love
I
my
mean-
brother, and he loves me, but yeah, I think he's kind of scared of me.
I kind of won a debate with a chud the other night, who was trying to claim that race and IQ was a
Yeah, I was
correlative.
Oh, you mean that thing that I'm actually going to be doing a video on?
Are you
Well,
really?
Godless,
Resource-
Godless, you're so late. You're so late. You can't tonight. But DM me, Godless. But we are like totally closing out.
By the way, Cyrus, I'm building up like a research database. I got a ton of links from that conversation she was just referring to. If you have any that you could like DM me on Twitter, that'd be great because I need this stuff so I can like tackle these ideas
Okay,
proficiently.
so guys, we do need to get back to closing out.
Yes.
Like we really do. We can talk about this post stream.
So sorry.
But we have to settle the definition. Sorry.
In the future, Ocean, I have you booked on that shit.
It needs to happen right now. There is nothing more pressing.
I said we can go to 12. I mean, but mod is God.
I'm not sorry.
This is all
All right.
Nathaniel's fault, I swear.
All right.
Could we
Sure is.
settle it in 19 minutes?
Okay. So no, we could not. That's a 6-hour conversation minimum. Two, if you
Two
if
drink
you are,
minimum as well.
if you are watching this on my channel, then go sub to Raging Atheist. If you're watching on Raging Atheist channel, my channel was a mistake. That said, I do have a video that's coming out tomorrow, or at least it should be coming out tomorrow. It really depends. I have high anxiety at the moment, so we'll see. We'll see how things go. But regardless, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this stream. I enjoyed this discussion. I do think there's something to be said about maybe having not quite as many people on, just because it makes it hard for everybody to get a word in edgewise. But with what we did have, I am glad that Ashley was here to moderate.
Thanks
To
for
make
that
sure that
input,
people could.
sir. Actually, because the limit is a new rule, and it is going to be evolving to make a better show. So, like, I'm really trying to like book shows and have topics, and I want to find out like that perfect medium for a perfect show. So yeah, I will take that to note. Thank you.
Well, I think, like, for what it's worth, as I said in our first discussion, I think 4 to 5, 6 is a maximum for me. I think 4 to 5 is the easiest to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody crosstalk properly.
Yeah,
That's just
I think if I schedule a little better, then yeah, I think 4 to 5 is a ideal situation. I think, and that would be like with me and the moderator and the 3 seats open for conversation. And
Well,
and we can break rules for certain situations.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, again, as long as everybody's polite, and everybody was in this one, like, we only had one instance where I kind of, like, had to put my foot down, but, I mean, like, everybody's being polite and everybody's
Yeah.
cross-talking. Like, I just had to, the only thing, I wanted to make sure everybody could talk. That's all.
Well, I think it definitely ran a lot better, and I do want to have another moderator conversation and actually try to get some of the people that did not show the last time, so we can have a more detailed conversation with the first few streams and learn as we go. You know, this is going to be an ever evolving thing, and it'll get better. And I think tonight was a lot better. You know, especially considering the disaster of about a week ago. So I think we're getting where I want to be. And thank you, sirs, because yeah, this is what I'm working on, is like finding that good medium, right? So I want to have great conversation. I think tonight was much better than it has been in a while. But we are going to continue to evolve, and I have a Twitter feed and an email feed if anybody wants to join the conversation.
All right, so we need to let AR and this one guy close out, and then I guess, TRA, you'll do your sign-off.
All right, I think that's my cue. So you can find me at the Atheist Rationale here on YouTube and the Atheist R on Twitter. On my channel, I do live streams tackling religious fundamentalism. Sometimes we cover cringe for the lulz, and I'm stepping into politics. I like to have conversations with people, and tomorrow I'm going to be talking with Progressive Liberal on the subject of Antifa, its history, and why it's around today. Come check it out. And meet me here again Thursday for the panel discussion on Raging Atheist channel. Same subject.
Gonna be a good one.
All right, this one guy, do you have
Yep.
any sort of presence on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm here and there. My channel isn't much. I don't really do much. I usually go on other people's channels, and my playlist of Sojourn's Adventures. Usually, we can see me on other people's channels. So, like, I add when I'm talking on other people's channels. I'll add the playlist there, and you can see most of my stuff on there. That's usually what I'm doing. But for the most part, I really don't make that much content unless like I have a question or something. Talk about my day. I'm just a guy on the internet. That's it.
Okay. Well, PRA was asking earlier. I'm not sure how interesting the channel that I'm working on. We haven't launched with any content yet, but we're in the process of animating our first 2 episodes. My channel is actually called Collective U. It's specifically sort of a leftist communist theory channel, and that's my primary focus. However, I am working on a video series on the Christian apologetics for capitalism, and a lot of the ways that conflicts with the Bible. So if anybody here is interested in that, then when we start launching some of those videos, then I'm happy to drop a link. But like that's a collaborative effort with me and a couple of other YouTubers, and we should have the first couple of videos out within the next couple of weeks. We just only have 2 animators at the moment, so it's kind of bottlenecked there.
Speaking of politics stuff, can I insert a political joke real quick?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so do you want to know the real reason why Trump hasn't been impeached yet?
Cheetos.
No, because Republicans believe in carrying a baby to term.
Oh,
That was good. Well done.
Damn.
Shots
I
fired.
like that. That was good.
Damn, I felt that.
J-Dubs, are you out there
That joke
watching?
was physical.
Hey, Ashley, I just tried to find your channel. Did you say Collective View?
Sir, it's
I
Brett
put the
Keane.
link
You just made Brett Keane. You just made Brett Keane.
all right. PRA,
what is-
it's time for closing statements. John, TAR put a link in the chat.
Well, all right. Thanks.
Please put links in the chat. But there are like mad links in the description too. I'm just saying.
Oh, I spelled it way wrong.
Is AR like muted again?
I don't think so. I just
Oh,
not.
you're good. All right. It's AR's turn, right?
I just
No, AR went.
Yeah,
It's your turn.
and this one guy.
Statements.
Oh, it's me. I see.
Yeah, it's on you.
Yeah, TRA tar. So I took some notes. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to say that like I've totally like thought about what Cirrus and Ocean said at one point, and I think I totally meant like it's human insecurity and not mental illness, and I just put my foot in my mouth. But I think it's like human insecurity can lead to dogmas really like warping human beings. This is something that I'm going to continue to look at as my channel evolves the way I want it to go. And I think that we as humanists should really like promote Christians that we find to be acceptable, people that are in Abrahamics that we find to be acceptable, and that they have a progressive interpretation that could be healthy for the world instead of damaging. And that's what I've tried to focus on outside of the rage that seems to pop up with me. But I've really looked for Christians that I could enjoy and really like as human beings. I found that in this one guy. We argue all the time. Messenger Reveals was kind of like that until he really like just I'm not talking about him yet.
I have done a lot of talking about him.
Yeah, well, and Sirs, me and you are going to be responding to him very soon, as far as I've been told. But and Dragnot and Shannon Q. But I get beyond myself. So I
But
totally
he's avoiding
joke
getting
like,
into a tussle with me.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Because like I'm the one that gave him a lot of
feel
shit.
like
he
in that
didn't say
video.
anything about Ocean. He didn't.
Yeah,
say
he didn't say
anything
shit
Ocean.
about me.
Yeah, but that's also because Ocean didn't make 2 whole live streams just ripping apart every point
No,
he's ever made.
And
I just gave him a bunch of shit to his fucking face, and he's a little scared. I guess he's scared.
yeah, well, and he did clarify with me recently that he's going after Cirrus and not me. Not me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see how it is.
Although I've been very critical, and I straight up like, please go after me so I can see how you feel, and I can really because I've been saving it with him, and I'm gonna go fucking all out. Fuck it. But okay.
I left something in the chat
who's-
here that I feel like you should see. That
What's that?
it's kind of pissing me off.
Okay, guys, we do need to
Yeah,
close
we
out
need-
the
we need to wrap
stream.
it up.
We can
So-
we can finish this conversation out.
I told a joke earlier. After stream is always private. Do not record it. I've just always regretted not having that after stream with Matt Powell available. So I was totally joking. Please don't record the after stream. It's a comfortable environment. Shit always pops off. People should feel free to say what they want to say. At some point in the after show, I'm going to invite somebody in that people aren't going to want to be in. So I'm going to wait until people want to get out before that happens.
So you mean as soon as
go ahead,
soon
Ocean,
as
I'm sorry.
as soon as that happens, I need to go ahead and turn my live stream off then, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Divine Disbelief is a good stream. Please go and subscribe to them because I've enjoyed their stream. Sometimes I don't pipe up in the live chat. Sometimes I'm doing stuff as I listen. You guys should go listen to that stream. It's a really good stream. All of everybody that is here, their links are in the description. Thank you for joining. We'll see you soon.
All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my stream as well. And I'm saying this very auditorily because if I don't, I'm 90% certain that Nakasucha will foot and mouth.
Well, yeah. Well, I haven't stopped it yet. I was gonna let Ashley end it because mod is God.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Okay, so I was just going to say thank you guys so much for letting me mod for you, and it was a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that we all got together to have this discussion because I think that there's a lot of nuance that was brought to the table and a lot of varied views. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one that I'll be able to help you guys mod for.
Cool. And Ashley, you did such a great job. So
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we will see you soon.